You all set, Brian? All right, this is the New Durham Board of Selectmen meeting. It's Monday, July 18th, 2016. It's now the hour of 7 o'clock, and we're at the New Durham Town Hall. And to my right is
David Swenson.
and to my left,
Gregory Antes.
and I'm David Bickford, the three selectmen. Tonight, we have a couple of appointments. We have Mr. Stetson, who is here to address the board. And Mr. Stetson, are you here? No? Okay, then we can move to another
What was the topic on that?
Copper Crown Village District.
Okay.
The other is Mike Gelinas, and he's here to talk to us about the milfoil.
No, not milfoil.
Okay,
The algae that was on down in the pond and stuff.
I'm the neighbor.
Well, you're not my neighbor anymore. I used to live there.
Oh, there's a, never mind.
So anyways,
this is Mike Gelinas, and give your address, Mike.
Mike Gelinas, 30 Ham Road.
Oh.
I used to be on the Conservation Commission and stuff, and I grew up on that pond. And I was kind of upset when I heard about the second bloom, so I went up and talked to Bill Millay on the Conservation Commission. We took some water samples, and I thought I'd update the selectmen on what I saw. I went upstream, up by, you guys know where I Hoovers. My grandparents lived there, I swim there all the time. Very little difference. There's been no vegetation growth.
You're
The
talking about by the state's dam over by,
Right,
well, the Jones Pond, they call it.
Jones Pond. There was water flowing over the dam, so there's a reasonable amount of water moving. So we took a sample, you go down the river, we took a sample at the inlet before it gets on to Downing's Pond. The water was clear. You could see slight greenness to it still. This is but it wasn't bad. Then we went down to the boat landing across Route 11 just to get the inlet and the outlet so we could see what's going on. That was fairly clear considering it's just below the dam, but it did have some in it.
Where'd you say the location was?
The boat landing on Route 11, the fishing game, one right down by
Oh,
Johnson's.
on Route 11, okay, yeah.
Because what we're trying to do is test the inlet and the outlet. And then we took a ride out on the Bickford Tree Farm. It was very interesting to see this whole back 25% was crystal clear. There wasn't any green in it. And we kind of thought the dead water back in it would be the worst.
Can you either show the camera or us here? Yeah. Where that 25% is?
This part here, there's no houses.
I don't know if he picked that up or not. Oh, you don't? You can? Okay.
It's very shallow, and but the water was clear. So then we went over to Manitou Shores. We took another sample there, just to see, because it looked like it was this whole area. The deeper part of the water was the greenest. I mean, everything I'm looking at confuses me. Because they pulled the advisory, so I went out with my kayak. I've been on it twice. And I can tell you, the only place on that pond that had cat nine tails in 1965 was down by the dam. No place else had any cat nine tails.
The Downing Pond Dam now we're talking about.
Yes. And when I looked, I saw infestation of weeds growing, cat nine tails, marsh grasses that were never there. You could always, anywhere on that pond, you could go and you could see the shoreline. Now probably a quarter of it, you can't see the shoreline. there's an island, I'm sure you people, this island here, it looks like it's all continuous land. When I was a kid, I always used to get the biggest kit, I'd get rolling as fast as I could, and I'd go through it. Now there's 30 feet of cat-nine tails, you couldn't even begin to get.
Show us here where you are
Okay,
also.
here's the two, these were two islands. I used to take and roll right through here, and you can see even on this map, it's vegetated.
It is now vegetated.
Yes, I used to roll through it with a rowboat here
Thought so.
and here.
Oh.
And there's been some discussion on the elevation of the water. I used to fish there all the time. Going on Merrimack Lake, there's a culvert.
Talking about right
I'd
there.
actually say the water level, the highest I ever seen it was about 3 inches over that culvert. Right now, it's probably 6 inches below it, but I've seen it, back when I was a kid, I remember being down 18 inches.
I'm sorry, what you call it now?
There's a culvert on Merrimack Lake Road that goes between that little pond
Oh,
by
yeah,
Foxy's.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that used to be my favorite fishing hole.
Yeah.
I used to sit on that day after day fishing. And you used to have, correct me if I'm wrong, you used to have about that much concrete that you could stand on easily. One of the things when I've been doing a lot of reading lately, the water flow is one thing you can control on this, and the other is your septic. And I want to address that before I leave, but I just want to talk a little more about what I saw. This island, let's see, the water comes in here. There's a jetty that comes out and there's a rock at the end of it. So the water comes like this. Everything down here had a lot of new vegetation. This corner down here
That's where
was,
we are. You can walk across the water with the lily pads. It's ridiculous.
within 8 to 10 years, I paddled all the way up through here, around here. It was a little struggle, but it wasn't bad. You couldn't even begin to. I used to pull my boat right into, Dave's got a camp out there. I used to pull my boat right in there, no trouble at all. You can't get within 40 feet of it now. It's grown up that bad. The island's got swamp grass all around it, this one. You can't see the shoreline on any of this island. Can't see the shoreline on any of this.
Oh.
And out here, I always used to kayak real close to the, and you can see
Yeah.
all the gravel and all that. Now it's all weeds. It's all, there's a major, major change going on.
So, I'm sorry, you see it's clear from.
The
from Staten
water is
Island?
clear, but this
But it's still
whole
weedy,
corner
huh?
right here,
Oh,
I've actually trolled fishing around this island many a time when I was a kid. You gotta know where the stumps were, but I used to go around.
Yeah.
I actually water skied around it. We used to water ski on that all the time.
Yeah.
oh,
Remember someone told us?
So there's been a major degrading. Now, it could be, it's a very complicated thing to figure out. My opinion, which is my opinion, it's behind this island here is the bulk of the problem. It could be coming in, and then we've tested, and they're gonna test for phosphates. I already asked if that was one of the things. And phosphate's one of the things that causes what we just went through. They tested here, so that should tell us if it's incoming from up above. Manitou Shores, some people aren't gonna like what I got to say, but this is what I got to say about it. It's a very sandy soil. The septic systems, I put in it, 2/3 of them that are in there, working for Warren Hayes, and
oh, is that right?
so what I'm trying to say is what we gotta do, they're 50 years old. It's time, when my dad was health officer years ago, you got these red dye pills, and you throw them in your septic, and unfortunately, a lot of people believe that your wash machine, if it goes in your septic, plugs up your septic, and they did illegal. So if, what I'm suggesting to the selectmen, they find out if My first suggestion is get the tablets, let people voluntarily throw them in, so, because I think 3/4 of people give a shit and would test it, and if they gotta put a new septic, they'll put a new septic. But we gotta test the septic and the well, the washing machine.
So mine's only 15 years old.
But still,
Yeah.
I'd say anything within 200 feet, it shouldn't be bad. You should be able to throw a tablet in, and then you go to sleep at night. No, I've done what I can do to correct my part of it.
Because mine's up and up towards the road.
Right, we're all up towards the road.
There's 6 of them I put in that are up a little ways, because the ones that were way down, they put them. But even so, all I'm saying is, if they're within 200 feet, my recommendation is throw a tablet in and see if there's a problem. We've tested the water here. If there's problems there, then let's chase it, because I think we gotta be aggressive about this,
Yeah,
because it's a problem.
I agree.
I swam there, I love that place, so to me, it breaks my heart to see what I saw. The
Just-
other things,
Mike, quick question. The dye tablets or the tablets you're talking about are to trace seepage or,
well, back in the day, because I can say things about my dad, because he's not gonna get in any trouble anymore. He'd go up to your house and say, I'm driving down the road, I can take a leak. He'd go in, he'd throw the tablet in the thing, and he'd say, how's your beach look? And he'd go out, he caught 2 people up there, from the
So-
time he flushed the toilet and walked out.
yeah, I just want to
And
make
people
sure.
don't realize they bought a can. They don't realize that the person had it for them did all kinds of shortcuts.
Yeah.
Before early 60s, there was no regulation on septic. And a lot of the places, I mean, Manitou Shoals wasn't there when I used to boat and swim, and you used to be able to walk in your, well, where the islands are. I used to walk from Shagnans all the way around. You know, when the water was down a little bit, you could walk the shoreline. You sure can't do it today.
No.
And the other thing you gotta consider is drawing the water down this fall. I think, I heard it was recommended from other people, but I said it before I heard it from any other people. From what I read, you gotta draw it down, and it's gonna take a couple of years. We'll be lucky if we don't, the experts say you can't get it back twice in 1 year, because the season's so short, but it happened so early this year, and it's so nasty out there. I was
One was
afraid.
milfoil and one was bacteria.
Hmm?
One was the milfoil, correct, they weren't the same.
No, milfoil.
I'm talking about the
milfoil-
allergy.
Yeah.
Is there milfoil in Downings that you know of?
Well, that was last year.
Yeah,
That was up above, right?
No,
Uh,
They treat-
no, they worked on it down at the pond
two
last
different
year.
places.
Oh.
I think 2 years in a row, I think.
Yeah,
But I can tell you, up above, the vegetation looks just like it did, I'm talking up in Jones's Pond, the next one up, looks like it did 50 years ago. And I can tell you, Downing's Pond doesn't look anything like it did 10 years ago.
No, because I'm dry docked. I mean, I'm over here where you're saying,
Yep.
and it's pure lily pads. And if you sit on a boat, you're in the sand, or so, right. And I actually have a beach, which 3 years ago I didn't.
Well, Mike, tell me about this
I
drainage.
have sand, this beach.
Yeah, we're aware of that, but tell us about the draining.
Well, the draining does a couple things, but, I mean, if it was my pond, I'd lower it 6 inches right now, because
It's too early.
the state of New Hampshire says you shouldn't get a second one in New Hampshire because it's not gonna warm up enough this year.
On that one this year, okay.
But one of the
Another
first
boom.
things you read, I spent about 14 hours last weekend reading. One of the first things you read is this algae cannot survive if you have water turn over an amount of the pond in like 5 or 10 days. I don't remember the exact, you know, I'm not an expert at this, but I did. So in other
Yeah.
words, how much flow you have is greatly,
right.
it could, you know. But I'm thinking, I'm with all the vegetative growth, and it seems to be, I know you're saying there's more lily pads than there are, But
And
it's
it's
all,
still, I was out there this morning on the kayak. They're usually coming in from where the water comes out, there's like, almost like a V, and you can see like move, it's like glass. If water's coming in, it's so minute, because there's,
it was coming over the dam pretty good when I was, cause it's
that,
coming.
maybe that day, but, and we just got rain and the water's down even more than before it rained.
Yeah.
Figure that out.
Well, tell you the truth, I think one of the things you gotta consider is not trying to, I think they're keeping it a little higher than it used to be, and I think if you're
Well-
impounding the water,
Then why do we not have water at the other end then?
it's going over the other dam. We stopped and looked at it.
No, towards my end, why are we dry docked? We weren't before. I have dock that's up in the air. Like,
Oh, I can tell you the water, that culvert I don't think's moved much on Merrimack Lake, and I can tell you from what it historically was. I'm not saying what it's been in the last 3 years, and that may be part of your problem. You may
Okay.
like that higher water, but the more water you impound behind that dam, the more likelihood you are to have an algae bloom. That's a fact.
I bought water, I pay taxes for waterfront property.
You'd have
All
waterfront
right.
property even with 6 inches lower, wouldn't you?
I don't
don't wanna get
in a running debate.
Yeah,
I just
sorry.
wanted, we wanted to get your information, because I know you have done a lot of work
Yep.
and research
Yep.
on this. And you've done a lot of work in the past on conservation issues, so.
Yeah. The main point I'm trying to make tonight is the vegetation is exploding on that lake. In my opinion, it could be either coming from upstream, or it could be septics and wash machines being dumped in. And it could be, there's a slight chance, just, it's getting so vegetated that Mother Nature is doing things on her own now. I don't have that expert to say what it is, but I'm saying it's probably one of those three things. And I'm saying the bulk of it is behind, let's see, let me get my bearings again here. This island here, where it goes both sides, the bulk of it looked like it was back here. This is nasty too, down
In the cove
on the cold side of
on the south side.
yeah, I guess you'd say southwest side of Manitou Shores. I mean, there used to be about 8 beaches on there. Most of them, you wouldn't even know the people. 10 years ago when I was there, there was people swimming everywhere. I don't see anybody in the water.
Can I ask you a question though? How far is the
Yes, sir.
leach field supposed to be away from the
Right.
water?
Because we're way
75
out.
feet.
75 feet.
Right. So-
Minimum.
But
No.
I took soils and community service, the town paid for it. I did fairly well. I actually think I got a 4.0 when I took it as a college course. Your sand, you have downtown. And 125 feet is gonna do less than 30 feet of your heavier soils that are up on the ridge. That's why I fought, a few years back, they tried to reduce the size of lots in the center of town. I fought it, I personally feel it was a tie vote, so it didn't pass. I personally feel I stopped it. Because I believe so much that the sandy soil, you have to have distance for it. Because next thing's gonna happen, the state's gonna come in and say, well, your soils aren't handling it, gonna make you put in a,
Septic system.
city sewer, city water, and then we're really gonna be screwed.
So if these leach fields are 50 years old, they should be updated, right?
No, if they're still working, it's fine.
They're still working fine?
No, I'm saying, I
If-
wanna put a
if they're-
dye tablet in
If
it.
it's-
Yeah, if they're still working.
If they're working, they're working. If they're not, they're not.
Right. But I mean, you know yourself, everybody's, we're just trying to figure out why we're having the problem. And now this has been brought up, so that, the question is, if these leach fields are working right, or have these leach fields failed?
Well, my opinion, again, is if we find out what's coming in is not the problem, I'm gonna go to the Conservation Committee. I've been told you can get a test kit. I know it's not official, it's not this, but if we're gonna do random tests, every 100 feet along that shoreline, see if we got a spike,
Oh, yeah.
get the phosphorus and the nitrate test kits and start going around and testing them. I'd even like to see I think it's down on the muck. I'd like to take a scoop of muck out and test that and see what it is. But I think that's what you have to do. You have to start eliminating after we get some of the tests back on the
All right,
water.
do you have more you want to add? I gotta
Nope.
check that out pretty quick. You do have one question over here, if you don't mind taking that.
It's basically a question and a request. If we find out that that it is septic systems in that area, can our town administrator, I mean, there may be people who can't afford to put in a new septic system around there. And can our town administrator perhaps look to see if there are any grants out there, because it is a town pond that might be able to assist homeowners in doing something like that?
I've never heard of such a thing.
Never heard of it.
But if you're gonna
I-
own
that's why I'm
land-
asking.
You got, I'm a firm believer you can do as much as you can on your own land without impacting somebody else's. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
And if your septic is flushing out to it, I'm sure there's state laws, and I'm afraid I'd be.
I just mean to get some assistance if you have to replace it.
It doesn't
if you
happen.
can't afford it to save that pond.
You'd have to take a loan out against your house. But you can't have a sewage system going into the pond. Well, I don't know all the answers, so I may be totally wrong, but I don't
Just a
believe that.
question.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Try to work together on this.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Why don't we
Cat nine tails.
go to public input? Does anybody have any public input? Mrs. Bernier?
I just wanted to make some clarifying remarks with regard to Chair Vickery's letter based either regarding the revolving fund and the rec commission of last week. I am disappointed in the choice to provide deceptive and manipulation of some facts and some cherry picking that I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page with. The revolving fund, which is not a tax-based fund, was, essentially to make it simplified, is a fund that was used to put money into, that was fundraised based on fees for programs, events, and that was a pool of money that would hold things that were set aside from tax-based general fund. They were to provide extra services, extra events, what have you, at the discretion of whomever was appointed on a 7-person rec commission. That money is raised by the commission. The decision to spend the funds is made by the commission only. It has no ties to the Board of Selectmen. It is not under the auspices of the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen has no decision with regard to spending that money. The way that it was set up, which was not set up by us, was that we would build that fund twice a year. That fund would then receive an invoice or a manifest. Commissioners would check in with the invoices, and we would authorize the payment back into general fund. So Vicki Blackton, when this was set up, took in the money, the bills would come in, she would pay for revolving fund items through the general fund, because it was easier accounting for her. And then she would keep track of it, which was our checks and balances. We had somebody, she was that person to check and balance what we were doing, to kind of balance the books. She would submit a bill to us in May and November of every year, at which point, Mr. Andrews, you might want to sit and listen to this.
No, I'm listening.
Okay.
I just wanted to
Um,
move the room.
She would then give us that bill, and twice a year, that money was expended. Now, during that 6-month time, that the money isn't coming out of that fund, because the general fund is covering it, that fund is building up. That fund is building up with fees and fundraising. So at any one point, every 6 months, you may see a balance of $60,000. You may see a balance of more than that, depending upon what the commission fundraised, took in for monies, whatever was going on. The key was to have the money to pay back that general fund, which we have always done. It was never in jeopardy of being overdrafted, ever. We could spend $8,000 one month, $1,000 the next month. We could decide to put a ton of money into it. We might decide not to put money into it. It was a flexible account. So to say that there was ever $60,000 that was squandered away is absolutely inaccurate and absolutely a misrepresentation, which the Board of Selectmen knows is a misrepresentation. So the money wasn't squandered away. With regard to commission spots, there were 7 spots. The decision was made not to reappoint 2 people last year. The decision was made not to reappoint an additional 2 people this year. That left 4 unappointed people on holdover status and 1 appointed commissioner with 2 open spaces. People were turned away from those positions. That leaves for a quorum on a board of 7, 4 people that need to be there to make a decision, and they were all on holdover status. On a number of occasions, and it's very well documented, either at Board of Selectmen's meetings or budget meetings, 2 of our selectmen were very interested in the fact that we had extra funds in that committee, in that revolving fund, and we're pushing to have that money used to supplement and subsidize general fund money, i.e. pay for rec director salary, or other things so that it could defray the cost of general fund. To have people on holdover status who are clearly not good enough to be reappointed and expect them to fundraise money to subsidize a general fund is just not right. And the decision was made that we weren't going to do that anymore. And again, that's documented. They wanted that done. We also knew that if we would run the risk of having our budget hacked so that we would be forced to come up with that money. With regard to the number of meetings that we had, of course, the year I stepped down as chair months ago, nobody else wanted it. I've been trying to get rid of it for a couple of years. Nobody wanted it. They didn't want to be mistreated, they didn't want to be maligned, and they didn't want the hassles that went with it. No chair means no meetings, which means no votes, which means nothing gets done. And so we haven't had a chair since, I believe, March, Scott, was when I stepped down, I believe it was? March. That's why there have been no meetings. In May 27th of last year, 2015, I had been pushing for 5 months, 6 months, to get that reconciliation. Vicki Blackton did the last reconciliation in May of 2014. She left, we went through 5 financial officers in the town of New Durham during that time. The reconciliation was not done on the funds in November. I asked for it repeatedly from the TA, from the finance office, and ultimately I brought Selectman Swenson into the loop, and he facilitated that getting done, but we were not given that bill for over a year after that last reconciliation. At the time, there were no invoices that went with it, and we were expected to sign off on something without having the checks and balances. One commissioner who was a finance person refused to sign it. We wanted to go through it, but it was going to be hours of work actually pulling invoices. The finance officer at the time said that someone had lost 6 months of timesheets in the finance office, so we weren't going to be able to verify that. In order to do that, that requires taking time off from work to sit down and do it, because it was not done by the finance office.
Time's up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just finish?
I don't know how long it takes to finish. We have a 5-minute rule,
That's pretty much
and
it.
there's other, okay, thank you.
Well, you know, it's one little thing.
She can have 25 minutes.
No,
No? Well, why can't
No, I didn't talk to you,
She
I
wasn't-
talked to-
He wasn't talking to
there
you.
was somebody that chimed in when they shouldn't have. Anyway,
Might I
you,
finish?
huh?
Might I finish?
Well, I need to make sure, I gotta see who else wants to speak.
Okay.
Who else would like to
She
speak?
may have
Um,
the remainder of the time she needs.
No.
Then I will take what's left.
No, there's only one 5-minute block per person. Terry Jarvis,
Mine's only gonna be
would you like to
short.
speak?
Yes, I noticed that once again on the agenda on old business is the community room facility use policy. Some of the drafts I've seen have proposed naming it for a single individual. Some drafts I've seen proposed calling it the fire department room. When that room, when the construction plans went before the city board of selectmen, I think it was in '06, but I'm not positive on the year, it was presented to the board and to the public as being a community room as its primary purpose. It would be used, obviously, for emergency services if they needed it as an emergency. And to now call it the fire department community room goes in the face of how it was presented to the board and to the public that then allowed money to be expended for that fund. We have, during my 27 years on the fire department, we have had several outstanding fire chiefs, Rod Nelson being one of them. But I feel it would be an extreme affront and an insult to the other fire chiefs who were also excellent fire chiefs. And the one that stands forefront in my mind is former Chief George Bickford, who was considered in the fire service to be a leader and a forward-thinking fire department manager. And I love Rod, but I don't want to insult other fire chiefs who have given many, many years and hundreds of thousands of hours by by naming a room for only one individual. You can honor all of them by calling it the Chief's Community Room, if you need to name it anything. I prefer the New Durham Community Room, but if it's necessary for a name, call it the Chief's Community Room.
All right, thank you. Ray Clayton Randall.
Okay, first thing I want to speak on what she just said. I disagree 100% because I know it was voted on at the fire department and the fire company meeting with public there and fire department. And I think it would be disrespectful to the Nelson family now to change it to anything different. Secondly, I want to bring up, the reason I wanted to speak tonight was I understand that the lawsuit is pretty well over. The town is headed in the correct direction, I feel, and I think it's time that the 600-plus people in town were recognized. They signed a petition that said this shouldn't have taken place in the very beginning, and I think it's time that the selectmen give a public apology for what they did, and I think that the insurance money, the legal money, was a gross misjustice to the town of New Durham. And I think that I would like to see the town administrator at the next selectmen's meeting give a full report on what it costs for legal fees for that operation. It never should have happened in the beginning. We had a petition with 600 signatures. I brought up at the SB2 meeting stating that we had the petition, and what was brought up, what was said to me, that our legal people said that we couldn't do it. And I said at that time, the selectmen are not working for the legal attorneys, they're working for the people of New Durham. So that's my input for tonight. And I would like to see that both selectmen are real good at giving articles in the paper. So I think they could do a public input there, or they can do it publicly at a selectmen's meeting.
All right, is that it, Clayton?
Yep, that's it.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? We have a little more time. Norm? Mark, thank you.
It was a little long, but I'll cut it
Mark,
down.
go ahead,
Mark
give you-
Entremont.
Entremont, right?
Entremont, yep. Old Bay Road. And I just wanted to make some comments about this weekend for the events that happened on Saturday. It was a great time. I want to thank all the volunteers who helped everybody in this room. And, Mr. Swenson, he ran the race with his wife. I saw him finish it. Great job.
He
Supporting the community.
He participated.
Yes, of course, the town administrator, yep, I saw him there that day, supporting. So, the day, I just want to recognize a particular individual, and I want to comment real quickly on a personal experience I've had for a company that I worked for, that I love, that I left, and it was years ago. I worked there for 14 years. They had a motto, cut to the chase, and I remember the day I was hired. I worked for the company that had 23 units. They expanded to 117 units within the 14 years I had been there, a little over 13, almost 14 years. They had a motto when I was hired on, and I'll never forget the day Mr. Doe told me. When I was hired, he said, Mark, you know what our motto is? We treat people right. That was their motto when I started working for them. There was like 1,500 employees. I worked with the corporate office, maybe 50 employees. We treat people right. That was their main mantra. So that went a long way in employees, responding to being treated right. Compensation, you do a good job, you get a raise. Anything, kind of jumping around, anything below 25 cents an hour, I think, within a 6-month period. If you don't get anything above that, you get it below, it's an insult for a raise. Hourly wage, I don't care if you make 20 bucks an hour, 10 bucks an hour, 25 cents or less is an insult. That's not treating people right. So Saturday was a great day. There was an individual that I saw in the morning, 6 a.m. She was there all day. All day, ball field, setting up, all the way to the great movie, which was a great time. And the movie in the ball field was awesome. A big, huge screen, kids had a blast. There was like 50 people there. She was there till 10:30. So you're going on 16 hours of, working all day, great event. And cut back to my old job, they adopted a new slogan, which they have today, and it's called, it's 3 words, a passion to serve. You have an individual who has a passion to serve, and you treat them right, they're gonna do the right thing. A passion to serve means serving your community, serving your team members, serving your customers. Passion to serve. You have an individual like that, you should treat them right. So I just want to thank the rec director, Nicole Hunter, for doing an excellent job
You're here.
all day. It was incredible. And I feel emotional because I learned that when she went to get a raise, she was 17 cents or something like that, an hour, something ridiculous.
Well, it was 4.5% for the year.
I don't care. I'm talking about hourly wage. You get paid cash, you know what I'm saying? You get money every week. You figure in 25 cents an hour, you're gonna get, X amount of dollars at the end of the week. That's all an individual thinks of. I'm not thinking about percent. You get a percent, you get a bonus. Yeah, you're gonna get 4% bonus. She probably doesn't get any of that kind of stuff. But anything less than 25 cents an hour for anybody is an insult.
Hallelujah.
Thank you.
I am going to say something here. When we did the wage study, we particularly looked at Nicole's salary. And we looked at the total for the total year. And when we looked at the wage study for the directors for Parks and Rec, she falls within almost a little below the middle of the first quartile. And that's where the selectmen decided that's where the
So
town's
you
going to be.
give her a raise on the statistics, other than her merit in what she does?
wait a minute.
So I know you can't answer questions, it's
Well,
public input.
yeah.
I read the Upton
I
Hatfield
don't
stuff.
think we should get into
You're not gonna
people's
change my
pay
content, you're
right
gonna
now.
control the time, but you're not gonna ask me questions, I'm not gonna ask you questions.
Well,
We can discuss
I
this.
think it's okay because this is public input. The actual, cost, the increase that she got over this year was a combination of 2 different pay increases, which totaled 4.5%.
Which is inaccurate,
We
because you're
still-
supposed to get that last year.
All right,
It's
We
inaccurate.
still are
We
looking
gotta-
It's
at
inaccurate.
other,
Things are getting out of control here.
well, let me finish, please, because I don't want a misunderstanding here.
Take a hint.
We're
It's crystal
still,
clear, she's an excellent
Take a hint.
director. I don't know her personally, but I've worked with her for a couple of years now.
I think the budget is
She's
not
excellent,
4%.
Well,
she's
no-
excellent. She
no one-
doesn't deserve 18 cents an hour, she deserves more than that for a raise. I don't care.
you have to look at the total year, and it's a total of 4.5%. We are still looking at some people's salaries, but we had a $30,000 limit budgeted.
You guys blew so much money on firing the chief, it was stupid.
Right.
Stupid.
That has-
You wasted my money, you wasted all their money.
May I?
You're wasting money,
Hallelujah.
not putting it back where it should be. I'm done.
Sir.
I don't want to hear it.
Sir,
Well,
you're out of order.
No, wait a minute.
Public input.
I'm gonna finish this, because when we budget, there are certain budget areas. We budget so much for legal defense, we budget so much for increases.
Blow the legal budget?
No, I don't want this
Yes.
back and forth. I don't want the back and forth. Greg, if you get something to say it, we're done.
$2,500
Are you-
into the
well,
budget
well-
Hey,
specifically
done,
for Nicole
done.
Hunter's pay raise, because that's what she was promised. Voted on it at the deliberative session, and then the voters voted for the.
Out of control, out of control, out of control.
I am out of control because you are out of control. There is $25.
Mrs. Phillips, you are out of control. If you've got to stop.
Call the police to take me out. Do we have anybody? Is there anybody who can come and take me
Yeah,
out?
no, I
right now?
appreciate
Or
it,
do you
Greg,
need
but I
to
really
call the
don't want
state
to
to
comment.
come
I
and
just
get
want to
me
state my
out?
feelings.
Call
Let me,
I don't want to hear anything else.
let me
Yeah, all right, I'm done.
First of all,
I'm
I do appreciate the input. I think you have valid points, and it's up to us
Nobody
as- as elected.
All right,
Let me finish.
Clayton, you
It's up
gotta
to us-
stop
It's up to
interrupting.
us as elected officials to listen.
We go round and round every week on this, do something.
Let me finish here, just quickly. Greg, I understand that you'd like to have an input. This is public input, so we just listen, I think, is appropriate and respond. I think public input is essentially over. I don't
Yes,
know
it
if
is.
Everybody else. I would like to, however, do we have any department reports? Scott, do we have any department reports at all? I would like to have the opportunity for Kristen to finish, given that she's the Parks and Rec has been involved in the Parks and Rec. So I'd like to give her a little bit of time that we had for the department reports section, to allow you to finish.
No.
So, if you would,
No.
Kristen.
And that says everything that we all need to know.
If you want to do a department, you should have been on the agenda for an department report. That's what we're supposed to do. We've waited for you for years.
So you're going to deny me the request to do that?
Excuse me, Mr. Baker?
Yes, this,
You're
we're
gonna-
done.
Well, let me understand correctly. You're
She's
denying,
not-
let me
she's-
understand this correctly. You're denying a fellow selectman the request to have a department report from the Parks and Rec Department.
She's not part of that department.
Just answer my question.
She is not
Are you-
part of
are
the
you-
department.
Are you denying my
So
request?
don't tell me that,
As chair, are you denying my request to have a representative of the Parks and Rec Department or former representative of the Parks and Rec Department give information from when that person was a representative of the Parks and Rec Department? Are you denying that request?
I think we gave a full 5 minutes to the subject.
I'm not in public
It's time
input.
to move on.
I'm not in
and do
public
the business
input.
of
I'm in
the
department
day.
reports.
Okay,
Are you denying the request?
we can have that done at the next meeting.
Are you denying the request?
Yes, I am denying your request.
I didn't know you could do that, but that's okay.
Yes, I
understand
can do that.
Okay. Very good.
All right.
I do think we have a pretty clear situation and understood. I apologize, Kristen, for not allowing you to finish.
Like I said, I think this exactly illustrates.
Then don't
my
come in,
point.
don't come in
I
under
appreciate
public
your time.
input if you want to have a, if you just want to go on and on and on.
No, it wasn't gonna go
If you had
on.
any clue how to run a meeting, Chair Bickford, you would have allowed that to
You gave me a
happen
lot of
and
food
allowed
for thought,
the rest of the
but I have to be
information.
accurate, Mr. Bickford, so I have to
I think
answer.
we should move on.
We have a policy, yes, we do. Okay, agenda review.
Can't have any because we don't have it on the agenda.
You don't have agenda review on the agenda?
Well, you have it on the agenda, but you can't have any changes because you wouldn't allow department reports there.
I think we've gone
Okay.
over this before, that we're going to try and
All
follow
right,
the policy.
I do have a,
Our policy says 5 minutes for
Okay.
anybody that comes in for public input.
I do have a change.
Do you
in the-
understand that?
I do have a change in the agenda. I'd like to add the opportunity for Kristen Bernier to present the balance of her comments under department reports.
Okay. How do you feel about that? Greg?
You know, these meetings are getting out of control. We either do it right or we don't.
Well, the PAM request is,
And if somebody wants to speak, fine, but they have to do it properly.
right.
If you want to do it during public meetings, you get 5 minutes and that's it. If you want to go under department reports and so forth, all you'd have to do is call Scott. They'll set up a time for you and you'll be under the department report. It's not difficult at all.
Why is it so difficult to just let her finish what she's saying? She's
Because
very
it-
informative to someone like me.
Because-
who's learned to-
You, sir, are out of order.
Why am I out of order?
Because it's not your time, it's our meeting. It's between the selectmen now.
Yeah, it's always between the select.
It's supposed to be, the selectmen's meeting.
You don't want
This
input
isn't,
from the public.
Thi-
You've proven that.
Clayton, this is not what we call anarchy. Okay? That's what we're trying to avoid here. We have a set process, we have rules to go by, which is called policy, and we're trying to adhere to that. You're the guy that said we should.
Right, but
remember?
You're not doing anything we asked you to do.
All right, no agenda review?
No, I already
There's
asked for the agenda
no
change.
one signed up for a department
I already
report?
asked for the agenda change.
You have agenda?
Yeah,
Change?
yeah, I asked for the Parks and Rec former representative to complete the statements.
I have heard no. That was a public input.
No,
And
this is under department reports,
There's,
which is
All
before
right,
agenda,
we've
which
been-
is after agenda review.
all right, moving on to town administrator's report then.
So you're not going to accept that agenda review request
just
either?
we went through that, Swen.
You're not going to accept that agenda review request?
The answer is, you heard the answer before, it hasn't changed.
What was the answer?
Scott, do you have a review, any discussion?
I'd like at least some level of respect to your fellow selectmen. What was the response to asking for an agenda change?
I asked if there was a change in the agenda.
And I gave it to you. It's,
And
what
I-
I've given to you is after the agenda review.
This is just a ruse. This is something, you know, you're the guy that said, I want the policies followed, and now you want to change the policies.
All I'm asking for is a response, a little bit of respect to your fellow selectmen for a response for the agenda review request.
I said no.
Okay.
We're not going
All
to
right.
do that. Greg preferred not to also. All right, Scott, do you have anything?
Scott,
for-
perhaps you can remove agenda review in the future because it's kind of useless.
Well, I have some things for agenda review,
Thank you.
and those are.
I don't think we have time for that. We're on to the next department reports, is what I understood.
Okay.
That's what I
No.
understood from Selectman Bickford.
Look, you're just being disruptive now.
He's a selectman.
Do we need-
You.
Do we need to make a call, or we, I mean, this is getting hot, maybe we should recess the meeting
I would
another
just like to
day.
have a Board of Selectmen's meeting, and I've got a whole list of things here
I know
to
it.
try to accomplish.
Please go ahead.
So I would like to have a meeting, and
Thank you.
if we're moving on, we're moving on, but if you guys
No?
want to continue
No,
to
go
debate
ahead,
it.
go ahead, Scott.
Okay. I did have some items for agenda review, because I had a new dog warrant that needs to be added to new business. I also have the April 18th meeting minutes that need to be added to the review and approval of minutes. So those are two items to be added to the agenda for this evening that are not posted as such.
Just quickly, on the April 18th, I received nothing which was requested at the last meeting, so I don't think we can do that. At least I'm not prepared to do that because I haven't seen the response from that last request.
Okay. I had copies of the printed version. I thought that they were in your board packets, but I found out this afternoon
They were not.
They were sent electronically this afternoon. So I do have, under the town administrator's report.
Wait a minute, excuse me. The April 18th minutes,
Yes.
are we handling it through this, or are we waiting for the minute part?
For the minutes, they're under the minutes.
Under the review and approval minutes?
That's correct.
Okay,
It'll be a letter C.
okay.
In regards to the town administrator's report, because I have no department reports or issues that I was made aware of. In regards to the town administrator's report, in your packet, you have the 2016 paving projects bid package, which has been put out, has been sent out to the vendors for them to be reviewed and to provide pricing in regards to paving for this year, as well as it's been posted in the newspaper. There'll be a pre-construction bid meeting on August 8th, and bids will be due on August 11th.
I thought this was for our review, I was hoping it was, because there's an error in it.
Okay? And we can correct that at the pre-bid conferences.
Okay.
Yep. You can let me know on that and take care of that.
Do you want to wait till we get to that?
No, you can discuss it now if you'd like.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's the first thing up on our agenda anyway.
Right.
Well, there were a few things I wanted to talk to in the town administrator's report, but we can go back to that if you want.
I don't know what it is. What do you got?
Well-
What do we need to talk about?
Well, you have here, Scott, you worked on the fire department renovation work plan in the town council. Is that going to non-public?
Yes,
Okay,
that's litigation.
okay. And then you want to talk about the violation of the DSA regarding the public water supply in that park? Is that non-public, or is that something that we need to talk about? Has that been resolved?
Just been taken care of.
Okay. And then this, I imagine, would go into non-public?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, and Selectman Swenson met with a butter. Is he going to talk about that when we get to the,
We did a
where is it?
briefing memo and everybody was distributed a copy,
Yeah. Is that coming up in the
tax deed property.
tax deed? Okay, so he'll talk about that. Okay.
Even here, I can.
That's fine.
fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure this one's going to be non-public, the litigation on that, right? Okay. And then,
You know, it may have been good to ask those questions before the meeting, Greg.
and then, this is gonna go into non-public again.
Yeah, it's information for you folks.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, then we can move to the paving.
Yes.
All right. This is quite a bit different than in the past.
What's that?
This is quite a bit different than in the past.
A lot more detail relative to the type of work to be performed.
But it's going by quantity as opposed to the length, I guess, of the area. Sorry.
No, I mean, everything's done mathematically based upon,
Not that it, well, I don't
as far as
know.
the actual measurement of the actual area itself, to be
Well,
done.
All right, well, my first thing is,
You did it by the lineal foot before or something?
I remember talking in the past at the meetings, we said about taking out Manitou Shores and Downey Road one thing, Manitou Shores doesn't exist as a road, so they'll be had to put on a bid. And we didn't feel that they needed it, those two areas. Actually, it's Butternut Drive, I think, that they're talking about,
Okay.
instead of Manitou Shores, if you want to make a note of that. But I remember having the Public Works Director go out there and look, and he seemed to agree with me that there were other areas that needed the pavement done more than that area did.
Okay.
So that kind of surprised me when I saw that. Because I've been over this last year, and we've talked about it ever since last year, actually. That was my main concern.
You want to repeat that? I didn't hear what the last part. Since you
About-
were facing that way.
Oh, about the roads,
Yeah.
if you look at page 3, you'll see the third one, road down, is Manitou Shores.
Yeah.
There is no Manitou Shores Road.
Right.
There is Manitou Shores area, which that area, I believe, includes Downing Road. There is a Downing Road. I think they mean Butternut Drive by Manitou Shores. And we had talked about this in the past, and I thought we had come to the conclusion, at least it was my belief, that the road was not, those roads didn't need it done. Now, there were other areas that had much higher priority than those, or
Yeah, I
had
think
much
there
more
was,
need.
I think they were going to be looking at that, but I don't think we had a formal response on that.
Well, I
comment.
would have thought this would be the
Comment.
formal response, but it's a little bit into the, it's already been put out.
Yeah,
Would it,
but that's what I said, I was aware that there was a question or comment on it, but I'm not aware that there was anything officially as a response, so once it was asked to look at.
anyway, that's what I said.
Would you want to go ahead and get a bid, but we don't have to go back and forth?
No, you can
Yeah.
change it.
Yeah, okay. Is that all right? Or do you want to even get a bid on it?
Yeah, whatever works, I just,
Well, and then
I know
look
there's
at-
areas up in North Shore Road, for instance, that desperately need work on, that I think are much worse shape than when I talked to the director, he seemed to feel the same way, so,
Should that be added under this?
I don't know, I think we need to talk to him about it.
Has this gone out, Scott?
Yes,
When did it go out?
last week.
So you could put an amendment to it
Oh,
if you
yeah.
wished.
Yeah, I mean, generally you end up, if in fact you need to make a change or addendum to it,
Yeah.
you can certainly do that. You can also do that after you you find out what your numbers are. You may end up preliminarily, I think you're gonna be okay based upon some of the numbers that I've seen come back on other projects relative to the tonnage, machine laid numbers and such, that you're gonna be in the ballpark of what you have budgeted. But you may, the budget numbers may come in more or less, so you may be able to either add or subtract or do an alternate to some of those other roads relative to that as well. As far as doing that. I believe this was, I assume that this schedule was put together, by the previous budget cycle coming in, so I'm not sure why, but they still remain on there. We talked with Mike about it.
Say that again?
You had talked with Mike Gingrich, the new,
Yes.
about this,
I-
so, okay, I'll question him about that in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, anybody, got anything else?
So you're going to talk to Mike and Scott and add those
Well,
additional ones?
Scott's gonna bring it up to him, and if he needs to talk to me further, then I will.
Okay. That's a good idea, because you know these roads better than anybody.
We did talk about it before,
Okay.
but this was
I'll talk
something.
with Mike and I'll take a look at them and.
Yeah, the issue in the question, which I think you should bring back to both the board and the public, is that what process was done to identify these roads, and then in lieu of that process, what other ones were looked at, and how did these become those that were chosen? I think that's the key issue. If to say another road is more deserving than this road, you really need a more formalized process than that. And so I would have done it.
There really is an evaluation process that ends up happening, looking at any paving situation. The idea is to expend the majority of your money on preservation relative to the pavement, and basically you let the worst roads continue to become worse roads, and you preserve the roads that are actually in good condition, and continue to preserve those the best that you can in that situation there. To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't gone out and ridden these roads myself, in that situation there, but certainly.
So if you would,
I
you know,
need to, so.
yeah, if you would have that discussed and brought back at the next meeting, it would be appreciated to understand how they went through it, how they chose these, what the process is, and do they see any more deserving roads than those at this time for an amendment or other action to be taken?
If I'm not mistaken, didn't Mike Clark come up with these roads?
Yes. Last year.
That's how we got to this.
I assume so, but maybe he just happened to agree, you know. But this looks like the same list as last year, and we did speak to it last year's budget meeting about whether to do those roads.
That's right.
We questioned it, and then also, last fall.
Has our Mike gone out and looked at these roads?
I guess he did.
I think, I'm not sure who our Mike is, but I think the current deputy, or sorry, the Public Works Director,
I would assume he's the
probably
one,
who you met.
he put the majority of this package together relative to the specifications of the roads to be worked on. And basically, I put together the actual bid documents as far as that goes. So, that's how we put this together, to get this out on the street. As
So
it is.
tomorrow, tomorrow, I'm just asking if he actually traveled these roads and get his opinion on it. If he had.
All right, Scott, you got,
And then maybe talk to Dave about those two deals.
does anybody have anything about the contract concerns, or you all set with a new contract? Hearing nothing, then we'll move on to the CIPC. You have something on that, Scott?
I just wanted to report that I checked into the inquiry relative to the membership, and we're all set for this Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock for the kickoff meeting for the CIPC relative to the question that was raised of one of the members selling their property here in New Durham. I did speak with that member, and as of right now, there is nothing etched in stone relative to the sale of that property at this point in time. She does have a document, but it's only contingent on the other folks in selling their property, and it expires, I believe, on the 10th or the 13th of August.
Well, just let me read in the record the response. And I'll skip the first paragraph, which kind of says what you said. It's August 11th when the current agreement is for their house.
Excuse me.
There said, additionally, my husband and I have not yet found our new home, so we are unsure what town we
Excuse
may
me.
buy in, but New Durham is part of our search area.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem me serving the town. If things change, I will let you know, and have always planned on coming to the Selectmen if events fell out to where I was not eligible to serve. Frankly, other than my communicating with you and the Board of Selectmen, I don't believe it's anyone else's business. Thank you for coming to me for clarification. Liz Cantrell. So that's the status we're at right now.
I heard that Dennis got sick since he came back.
He's
So I'm
coming,
not
he'll
sure
be at Wednesday's meeting.
Oh, he will, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Who is?
Dennis Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's back from FEMA. Okay, good. Anything else on that, Scott? All right, moving on to Downing Pond update. Is there any more update on that?
No, other than the DES notified us on Friday that they had lifted the cyanobacteria due to the testing coming in below at acceptable limits, and so the health officer removed the postings, and we put notice out through news and announcements that the had been lifted.
All right. Now, another thing, Scott, is there anything further on Downing Pond? Must not be. Okay. In our material that you left us, it was a safety inspection report.
Correct.
And,
Pretty hard to read.
yeah, you're right. Did you want to bring that to our attention or anything?
Just wanted to let you know it is part of the work up there as far as the narrative of the administrator's report, that the Department of Labor did come and close out the 2014 inspection of the safety inspection that was done in 2014. And we found deficiencies with the mezzanine at the highway department and the handrails at the police department. And those were the last two items of that list. And those last two items have been repaired and they have signed off. And it goes the inspection report as deficiencies being corrected.
All right? Sounds good then, doesn't it?
Thank you. That is the by the way, Scott, that's the last item on the, on that report?
Correct.
Wasn't there a highway department also on that, or?
Yes.
That's what this covers that?
The mezzanine
And there's the
and
police
highway
department,
And the handrails.
and they've signed off both of those?
Correct. Yep, the highway department took care of that, and you had approved the repairs to the mezzanine a few weeks ago. So those have been taken care of. The inspector was here on Thursday afternoon. And, inspected it.
All right, and so we can move on to new business then. That sound good? All right. We have the police officer appointment of Andrew Croto. And he is offered to do a little part-time work here in New Durham. He works in Barrington presently. And so if the board feels comfortable with that, then we can make a motion to move on or discuss it further.
I'll make the motion.
All right.
Just quickly before you do that, in that motion, you should insert, if you're gonna read it, you should insert part-time police officer on that second to last line. As it reads, it looks like it's full-time, and it's not, it's a part-time position.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yep. See after of and police.
Yeah.
Well, I was
Position
gonna
of
put it
part-time
here.
police officer, of part-time police officer, just
The
add.
position of part-time,
Yeah,
appointed to the part-time position. Oh,
To
either
the
one, either one.
part-time
Yeah,
position?
either one works.
that's where I was gonna put it.
Okay.
Well, I make the motion that in accordance with the town hiring policy and with no comments received during the 2-week vetting period, that Andrew J.
Croto.
Croto
Croto.
be appointed to the part-time position of police officer effective 8/1/16. Said appointment has a 1-year probationary period.
I'll second that.
All right, that's one that seconds it. Greg made the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So, okay, that's unanimous.
Is this one we sign?
Yep.
Everybody signs it or just?
There you go.
Does he put this date where he swears in? That's not our date of
No, you
this.
can put that, you can put that in.
Do you want to vote on that?
Yep.
All right, now we got a firefighter that has completed some training and received his certificate from Fire Standards and Training Commission to be firefighter too. And that's quite a feat to do. So congratulations go to, if I can pronounce his name, Joshua J. Olszewski. How'd I do?
I think that's okay. I haven't heard anybody else say it, so.
Well, I'll make the motion then to make a wage adjustment to firefighter Joshua J. Olszewski for obtaining his state firefighter 2 certificate to pay the rate of $12 per hour effective June 9th, 2016.
All right, do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
All right, Swen seconds it.
And just quickly for the point on the retro side, that's the date when the certification became effective, or he was certified.
All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. That was Greg that made the motion, and Swen seconded it. All right, we've got the ambulance billing policy that you've given us, Scott, and I believe it's just that paragraph in the
I figured that might be a topic of some discussion, so that's why I highlighted it.
You believe, what did you say, Scott?
The highlighted paragraph
Yeah,
within
yeah.
the ambulance billing section. There's many different communities look at it many different ways, so basically looking to get some guidance as to how the board would like to proceed relative to this. Has been reviewed by the fire chief. He supports that paragraph relative to, I don't know about forgiveness, but whether or not an abatement of fees that may be remaining after the actual billing process that may be outstanding would be forgiven or abated due to a person's being a taxpayer in the community. Chief supports that for a couple different reasons, as he's conveyed to me. And a couple of those are that the monies that are collected for the ambulance service do go in directly into the ambulance replacement account, but they do not cover any of the wages relative to the staff and/or small incidentals or disposable type items that help support the ambulance as well. It's only items withdrawn from that account of $10,000 or more that actually come from the account. So he feels that he would like to see forgiveness for a taxpayer because they're actually paying taxes for that service in that situation there. So just want to pass that along. Many, like I said, many different towns do it many different ways. Community that I come from, that's how they do it. They go through the billing process.
How this one is?
What's uncollected is actually written off as a as part of the taxpayer debt.
Did the fire chief saw this as an example?
Yes. Yeah, he saw that. He it is a little bit different in our current process, only for the mere fact is we use a contracted billing service that does that, which works out very, very well. They represent a large number of municipalities and ambulance services in the state. Top notch, from what I can see, 86 to 89% collection rate based upon that billing service. And they also have a partnership, I say partnership only for an affiliation aspects relative to using a financial group, resources group to do the collection portion of uncollected debt. They have many resources, far greater than what ours are, relative to tracking down folks and being able to put out different information on the different resources there as far as the uncollected debt, as far as the credit reports and such. The way this is kind of laid out is you go through the original process that we had, and then you drop into having us actually look at the situation and then give the okay to forward on to the collection agency to move forward. That's how this is actually laid out. And that will be the check with a welfare officer to see if in fact the person may be a client of such, or if in fact the person is in fact a taxpayer, depending on how you folks wish to handle that portion. But it goes to the billing service first because insurance companies can be billed and that.
Any thoughts? Either one. Well, all right, then I guess it's probably appropriate sounds appropriate to move on to a tax collector after 3 billings, I guess is what it is. Now, does the Comstar do any kind of financial arrangements? They don't, do they? They just send out 3 bills and they're done.
Correct. Yeah, they don't go into any payment type plan. They do have as you may be aware of, they do have a hardship.
But that bounces back here, right?
They do their own hardship in-house, and if in fact they find that it meets their criteria that they've established for their company, then they would then recommend to the town
okay, yeah.
that they do meet the hardship, and whether or not you wish to abate that, or give forgiveness in
The-
that situation.
The other thing is, I think it's, so the collection agency gets a third, and then doesn't Comstar get another 10%?
I don't believe that they do. I believe that once it goes from Comstar, I believe then the collection agency operates independently of Comstar, although they allow the collected monies to actually go through Comstar. But I did see in there that they would get another 10% on top of that. I know Comstar collects as part of their fees in their own process, they do
So they don't
get
get,
10%.
so if they don't collect, they don't get the fee, Comstar?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the way I understand it. I can
Because I see that,
verify
oh, it says, after posting the payment to the client account, Comstar will forward the check. So if they do collect something, it made me think that maybe they were collecting something also. But anyway, thank you for that. We may want to try it anyway. Is this, agreement is for a period, to be for a period of time? I see a date on it, but it's 2015.
Yeah, they have sent just basically some information along here as to what the type of contract actually looks like, as far as doing their services. They do not believe that it has to be, I didn't see in here that it had to be for a period of time. I know that there is terms of the contract relative to having the right to withdraw from the accounts and terminate the agreement within, I think it's a 30-day
Yeah.
process that can be done. And I believe it says, as far as the agreement of services, it just has an effective date on it. And
Then it's a matter of telling them we don't want your services anymore, I guess.
that's how it looked to me in looking out through it, because it doesn't show a period to period relative to the agreement side of things.
All right. Any other questions on the agreement?
No, I looked at it.
You, Swens? No. All right, so I guess, I think it looks like we may be satisfied on that.
I guess the only clarification I would need is relative to the policy, and whether or not the policy in section 2 as to how you wanted to, if you wanted to follow these steps in the policy. Right?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the steps. Did anybody else?
No, when I read it, I said, it looks about right.
You said you've seen this in Seattle?
Yeah, relative to the forgiveness of the tax.
Yeah, yeah, so I think we're good to
Oh,
go.
wait a minute, I did highlight the, excuse me,
You do have something else there, don't you?
Yeah,
What do you have there, what number?
well, it's I, under C,
Yeah.
CI. If a resident taxpayer, the town administrator may submit to the Board of Selectmen for a waiver. I don't like that kind of favoritism. I mean, yeah, I'd like to just say we don't have to pay any bills here in New Durham, as opposed to other people. You may have heard that the state tried to do this with tolls at one time. New Hampshire people would be exempt from tolls. The Supreme Court, I think the US Supreme Court came down on that. We were trying to get those people over Maine because they were getting away with taxing us over the Navy Yard. But, so I've said this before, and Peter, the fire chief knows it too, I'm opposed to any favoritism. I think when the ambulance goes out, there's no color of the skin or the color of the money or anything else. It's, you go out and you take care of it, and I know they do. It's just that I feel it should continue that way for the cost also. Treat everybody the same. So I would be, I guess I don't like the wording of I. I mean, I certainly know you have the right to waive, even if that wasn't there, I believe. But I don't like the idea of locking it into just taxpayer resident taxpayer.
Well, I mean, we do have hardship situations.
Actually, when someone comes in for welfare, it doesn't matter whether they're resident or not. They knock on your door, you gotta provide them with welfare.
You don't want to say that, no.
So anyway, maybe I jumped on you before you, I understood your question maybe. Did I?
No, well, I just feel as though it wouldn't hurt to keep this in here just in case as there's a real hardship or a
Oh, I agree.
situation.
No, that stays anyway.
Yeah.
That's 2 and 3, I think. Number 2 in particular picks up on that.
Right.
And I'm not against, I'm just saying, I don't want to restrict it to resident taxpayer. I want, if the town administrator, I shouldn't say if, the town administrator may submit to the Board of Selectmen for a waiver. Well, he can do that now, actually. So you don't really need it at all. The only reason that's in here is for this exclusionary to the taxpayer resident.
Right, and I think we should, I think that's the important part of that.
Well, I think you should, well, my point is, it should be that way with everybody. You know, somebody comes to visit you at your house from South Carolina or a relative, something like that, it shouldn't be any different for them than anybody else. We all need that ride. We call the ambulance, or somebody calls it for you, we're all the same.
I don't think that's what this is addressing at all.
You don't?
No. This is after the fact. The service has already been delivered.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The service, this is
Yeah,
the
so
bill.
it has nothing to do with whether they're going to provide the service or not
No,
to
that's-
anyone.
well,
That's already done.
I agree.
This has to do with how they're going to take care of the financial responsibility of it.
That's where I was at, but maybe I didn't, maybe I wasn't clear. But that's exactly correct. So, do you have any input?
I just gave it.
You're all set with it?
I don't have a problem with the way it is.
Okay.
I mean, I understand your point, but to say the town administrator could do that anyway, I'm not. He could do it, that doesn't mean there's any provision to be able to have it done. So there's no obligation for the Board of Selectmen to even consider it. Here, there is at least an obligation to be considered.
Will that be the case? I think you should say the town administrator may submit to the Board of Selectmen for a waiver. And not have them qualify by being a
Resident
or
taxpayer.
taxpayer.
Yeah, I wouldn't probably have an objection to that.
I like the idea that it's a resident or taxpayer. Get a waiver, right? Someone from out of town, I'm not sure if we're obligated to give them a waiver.
No, you're not obligated. A waiver doesn't obligate you. A waiver just gives you, is an option. Actually.
Well, an option, but I think this spells out, it restricts and spells out who could come to the town administrator, then to the Board of Selectmen for a waiver. If you leave it open-ended.
By exclusion, it tends to lead you that way, but
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't think it's constitutional, but I wouldn't want to be that way. I think everybody should have the same financial burden, unless they have a financial problem to pay,
Well, let's
which
look at
we've got
it.
in there.
Let's look at it from a logic point of view and to address your issue, Greg. The fact that if it's removed does not preclude the opportunity to be able to consider a taxpayer resident for that,
Well, sure.
for that situation.
Right.
So you really don't need that statement, that phrase.
But I guess what I'm saying is, you take it out, then it includes outsiders.
Yeah, all of those outside.
If you leave it in, it excludes outsiders. If you take it out, everybody could be considered.
Right.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah, he wants to exclude.
Yeah, and I would probably say that your point is reasonably valid on that it may be discriminatory.
Yeah, that's been my understanding with past things were done like this. You know, I'd hate to go to some town in the, you know, they talk about the South or something like that, and find out that, well, I'm the only one paying for that ride, and that ride costs 10 times more because I'm subsidizing the folks in town. None of them are paying.
And what's wrong with
Well,
I mean, I think we should always look after our residents and taxpayers. taxpayers. And that's what I get out of that.
All right, so,
So that's where I'm at.
wish I could influence you otherwise.
Well, I think you have a consensus the other way.
Yeah, we do.
If you would take care of it, it would be helpful.
So I think the consensus is to take out resident taxpayer.
And just started with the town administrator may.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can we take a vote on this now? Would that help you, Scott?
Yeah, that would help move it forward, and I know it would be helpful. I anticipate that at the next board meeting, that we'll probably, in non-public session, we'll need to review the 2010 through 2014 uncollectible debt for the annual service.
All right, how much do we need to,
I'm hoping that the people would take on the 2015 uncollectible in doing the debt collection. So
oh,
that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah,
I have
good
that
chance they
conversation
will.
with them, see if they'd be willing to take that
oh, okay, yeah,
I don't believe they'll take, I'm not sure how far back they would actually go.
oh. All right, Scott, we need to read this all out for motion, or do we just, as amended?
We can do a motion and to accept the policy as amended.
All right. I will make a motion to adopt the amended ambulance billing and collection policy from today's date, I guess. Monday, July 18th, 2016.
August
August.
1st.
What?
August
August
1st.
1st, that's right. How did I get this?
Oh, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I think I repeated that for the camera,
That's
for
supposed
the
to
date
be
of our meeting.
August 1st.
So beware.
Yeah, it's August 1st.
You get it all, Scott? All right. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna try one more time.
You haven't got a second.
I wanna hear you.
You haven't got a second.
That's true.
I'll second.
Okay, your thinking on this is what again?
Discriminatory. I feel that we should treat everybody the same in the billing, just as we would for medical care. For billing, we want to treat them the same. Now, the ambulances, if it helps, is user fee oriented.
Right,
Okay?
right.
The only thing that taxpayers actually pay for is the medic or EMT person, EMS, and the driver.
Right. And that can be charged.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to separate it out. I mean, I would like to see someday that that's all part of the fee.
Right.
But that's just a small fee, so it's
But
really.
your
a very small portion.
concern is when you start you're limiting, so it's discriminatory and so forth. That's your thinking.
Yeah, yeah, I want to treat everybody the same.
And the board does have a right to go ahead and say.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Then I'm comfortable with it.
Just quickly though, your point on, there is no end term to this in the motion, nor is there in the agreement or in the policy.
Yeah.
In the policy, you know, we wouldn't have it anyway, but, so this just continues self-perpetuating.
On the last page, you just give notice of 30 days.
For that part, yeah. But I'm talking about.
Oh, on the policy.
Talking about the process, yeah. But yeah, that part's.
That would stay in place.
But that stays in place, just
Till
to
you
make sure
change
people
it.
understood. That stays in place until it's
Yeah,
changed. so.
somebody makes another amendment to it. All right then, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Good, that's unanimous.
You had an addition on this, Scott?
Yes, I have the, pass it down here. Just to fill everybody in, this is a revised, we had signed a dog warrant, what's it called? Look at the name. Yeah, unlicensed warrant for unlicensed dogs, your signature. You had signed one actually a few weeks ago, and when I returned that to the town clerk, she ended up discovering through some of her research, she ended up having apparently a problem with the software, and found a couple of glitchy items with it. So she chose, and with the assistance of a resident, donated a fee of money to cover postage to do another mailing, so that we could get out to the folks there to make sure that if they got missed or otherwise, that, you know, they'd be taken care of, as far as that they could come and pay their dog fee. So she sent out another mailing, got that taken care of, it was covered by a donation for covering that, and she did find some errors where the software system didn't record the actual payment. She actually had good success, and followed up on that with a few phone calls and such. So I believe the original warrant that you had signed was about 160 some odd unlicensed dogs, and I believe this one here is for 38, considerably less in regards to that. So,
Are the software glitches resolved for future
yeah,
use?
the best we can tell. What happens is sometimes when they do the uploads and downloads of the software that they use in QuickWorks, for that, for some unknown reason, it didn't record. There was only actually just a handful, I want to say 2 to 6 that were actually had already paid and had their dog tag as such. And just for whatever reason, the system didn't pick it up. Should have, but it just didn't in that situation there. The other thing was that they also discovered by doing an additional mailing was that residents actually said, initially they get an actual postage card that says, hey,
Reminder, yeah.
dogs up for relicensing. She actually did an actual letter and sent it to them and said, listen, we've sent you 1, 2, 3 notices type of thing here. This is last call, and all call type of thing there. And people actually said by getting a letter, they paid a little bit more attention to it than the card. Even though the card was done on colored paper and such, people didn't, they said the actual letter that they got in the mail made them pay attention, and they got in, took care of it. So, anyways, this is the warrant itself, and then this would actually be turned over to the police department to then go out and or contact relative to the civil forfeiture side of things there. And it has a layout here of what the proceedings are relative to that. So it has a list of the folks that are on there. Out of the 38 dogs, there's one owner that has 11. So really, you can take that away. So now we're down to 27 dogs that are actually unlicensed, which isn't bad, I guess. Out of the
Oh, that's a list of dogs, not owners?
this is, well, I'm sorry, it has the owners on it as well.
Okay. Let's take a look at it.
The only thing that doesn't quite, and maybe I misunderstood what you said, Scott, is that the first one had 100 and some odd. This one has 38 or whatever.
Yeah.
But you said there was only 2 to 6 that actually paid that didn't show. What happened to the other 100 and some odd that?
They actually came in and paid.
Oh, they did after
Yeah.
the notice. Okay.
Either actually came in and paid.
I missed
or
that point.
It was identified that the people had moved on.
Okay.
And we had no response on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
in doing the cards, it sounded like a talking to Stephanie today, that when they do the actual cards, when they mail them, if in fact they're undeliverable, she doesn't get the cards back. And at least what she can recall, she didn't remember getting any cards back. But when she mailed the letters, using the regular postage way of doing it, she got some of those back as undeliverables because
Your
people
dog got
had
it?
moved on.
Undeliverable? Is that what you mean?
No, it's your dog on it.
Oh, am I on there? No. Yeah, I'm looking. See if any of us are here. No, I guess we're all set.
So Bedford, it was okay then, they paid,
Yeah, we're from Meterboro Road.
okay.
Murray Lake Road, Murray. Okay, this looks pretty good though. The things are going actually pretty good, I would say. Last year, they really had good luck with getting people to either get their names off or,
Well, they get the records updated there.
Yeah, Stephanie and Donna we talked about the staff meeting this morning, this afternoon, I believe. They're actually kind of trying to work up a couple different ideas as to things to do to help trigger and get people to pay, and even if they end up paying a little bit early. You know, because generally you only come to the town hall or come to, you know, register your car, or change registration, so we try to make sure that people, you know, check with people to see if they registered their dog and such, so.
are we a little late on this?
Yeah, you're late.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we make a motion then?
Yeah, I mean, I know you've already done it before, but I think you need to do it and make mention.
Well,
of
it's
this
done on a
revised-
larger list, so.
The revised list from the actual 2016.
I thought the same warrant just worked on through, but because there's another law on returns, is that it?
Yeah, there's two sections there that are cited.
It took the number of them. All right, due process. Now, we must have already did 46614, right? So what we need to do is what? The RSA 46616 now? Returns?
I believe that would be the second step, yeah, which would be to have the police department make service on those.
All right, well, make a motion to, what?
To issue the
Issue-
unlicensed dog warrant.
The unlicensed dog warrant pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 466:16.
Yes, I think that would serve it.
All right, anybody want to second that? No, take care of that.
You want to repeat the motion? Because you kind of wasn't quite clear.
All right, pursuant, make a motion to issue a warrant on unlicensed dogs pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 466:16. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Well, I will not be voting for this,
Okay,
and the reason why is I don't think it's a good use of our police department.
okay. All those in favor then? Aye,
Aye.
and all those opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, that's Greg Anthony's is opposed.
Just quickly while we're on warrant, which is not directly related to us here, but, and it is early, but I would like to, Scott, perhaps you can bring to the next selectmen board, I would like to start planning out for budget season and next year's deliberative session. And look and see if we can set the deliberative session as early as possible, perhaps as early as the next Board of Selectmen meeting, but certainly not later than maybe sometime in September, so that, you know, we can do the appropriate planning and all that. The NHMA has, New Hampshire Municipal Association has a calendar that they usually put out when specific timeframes are available or required by law, et cetera. And I know the deliberative session is required by law. It's usually the first week in February, but if you would take a look at that and bring that to the next Board of Select meeting, we could start considering that. I think would be helpful for my planning purposes as well as many others.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, actually, we talked about it at a staff meeting today. I anticipate that I will have full budget packets out to all department heads by the third week in August for them to start their planning process. And I'll actually have a full countdown calendar put together in hopes to also have the budget committee on board with that and be able to, so they can structure their process as well, moving forward with that, so we can make sure that we're on target relative to those dates as well, so we'll get a little bit of a cushion there, hopefully at the end, in case there's any hiccups that come along that may come up at the end. But yeah, I'll devote a section to next meeting so we can discuss that, make sure that we're in concurrent.
Yeah, and then, as I said, maybe we'll set the deliberative session as early as then. But Good.
All right, we get the, we get next, tax deeded properties? Or do you have something else to start?
I don't have anything else on the new business, relative to tonight. The old business would be the tax deeded properties. And in your packet, you have the list, and I don't know that if, I don't think that Jen, I'm looking at Greg's packet, I don't think he gave you copies of all the maps.
Right.
So those didn't get copied. So I have those here, and with all the maps that are attached to the map and lot numbers. And I, probably just got missed in the translation from when I was away, so. But I have those all here. I mean, I can certainly hand them around, but we can make the copies and,
Well, I need that when I go out and look at the property.
Right, so, I'll have them, I'll copy these up
And then you'll have them in the
and
box.
leave them in your box, relative to that. The other thing was, I believe you should have in your packets, or was left in your mailbox, and I put in there Saturday, was relative to the site visit that you folks authorized for Selectman Swenson, myself, and the abutting property owner behind, or abutting property owner to the library, to look at that property to see if there was any possibility of whether or not a boundary line adjustment could be made, because that also abuts another tax deeded property,
Right.
just the next lot
It's the
in,
next lot.
that may be able to, get the library some additional
Right.
space, or allow for, because of impervious surfaces that may be needed, if you were gonna add on an addition to the library, or put a storage shed, you may need additional green spaces, or if you put additional parking of some sort. But there is, without having somebody, we'd have to get somebody to go in and actually look at that relative to a survey type person
Right.
to take a look at that. What is actual usable property, preliminarily, I think I indicated some rough idea on some measurements that you could see there, but we'd have to have somebody do some wetland delineation and that kind of stuff to make that.
As I recall, there's a low-lying area
Yes.
in about the middle of that lot, or?
And it's actually between that and, what's the other little lane that goes off to the left on Birch Hill?
Much right.
Yeah. In between that is it's a lower contour.
Did I understand that the two of you went and talked with the individual that owns that lot?
Yes.
And can you reveal that to us now, or is that something that you us
Yeah, I don't think that the property owner information is
Well,
relevant.
you can look it up on the map, it's public information.
Yeah,
No, I'm sorry.
But,
Did you talk to that person?
oh yeah,
yeah.
And was he seem to be favorable to this idea, or?
I think it could be worked if it's done intelligently.
Well,
Yeah.
well, then you're an intelligent person. Can you persuade him, or was there a discussion, or?
You gotta understand what I just said, Greg. It can be done, I think, with some mutual agreements and understanding of where the lot lines are. I think you got a copy of the write-up, right, Scott? You sent that to all of the people, right?
Yeah, did you see this?
And so,
No, I don't have that.
You might have got your packet earlier.
well, I thought you sent it as a separate, actually, email, but
No, I didn't get
No,
this.
I made a copy and everybody bought it.
I believe I did. I know what they're talking about anyway.
Well, I do too, I just didn't get the actual.
yeah. But I think if the town, I guess, the thing is, points 1 through 5 or 6 there. If the town would engage a survey to define the lot lines for both the library, which it really should have, but I'm not sure if it does, the town-owned tax deeded property, and where the lot line is for the abutter, just have that clearly, which would have to be a fallout anyway from the tax deeded property. And then from that, make some determination on what are the options for a possible opportunity for the library to acquire that land.
Okay, And you said when you were talking to this gentleman, he was somewhat receptive.
Yes.
So I don't have a problem in going ahead and having,
Survey.
paying for a surveyor.
Yeah, and that's the key piece, next step, in my opinion.
Right.
Which means we need to keep, this is what I need to find out is if 13 Birch Hill Road needs to be kept off of the, for sale, waiting for this information to come back or not, or even if it's related to it anymore. When we,
There's no reason you can't do it concurrently and make that determination when you need to. We're still quite a ways away from, I think,
Well-
that decision, but
be signing it up with real estate?
I think we're still quite a ways away. I don't know, maybe not, but this particular thing, I think, should be done regardless, or
Oh,
concurrently.
I agree,
Concurrently
but
anyway, yeah.
it doesn't, that probably doesn't have to be part of this, I don't think.
You could make it a part and not push it until you have to make that decision. Again, the point from my viewpoint is you bring them both along and make some determinations at the point you need to make decisions.
So, I don't think we need to authorize Scott, I think he can just do it by consensus to have someone come in and take a
Well,
look
this is
at it.
gonna be a cost to the town for the survey.
Yeah, we need to either get the estimate or for us, or if it's under $3,000, which I would hope, just to get it started.
Yeah,
Would
so
be.
it's probably gonna be, I think, again, I'm not a surveyor, so I don't know, but it's probably gonna be in that ballpark, I think,
Maybe not.
so.
It might,
So I think
it might be
the point
ultimately
is,
if
you
you're
know,
gonna do
do you,
the
do you wanna authorize Scott to go ahead and
I do,
get that surveyed, get a price for the survey, if it's within his authority, move ahead on it?
yes.
Okay. I'm for that, but just wanna make sure the consensus was there. Do you need a motion on that at all, Scott?
No, I mean, if the estimate does come in, because I'll get a
Right.
couple different prices
Right.
for that. And I think the biggest thing is, what we talked about was defining where those property lines are
Right.
existing right now.
Right.
And then also having him look at that parcel as to what is, the usable
Yeah.
delineation. And I think he probably has enough information. Local people will probably have enough information.
Well, I think you'll find there's a survey on both those, it's just the pin is missing on by
The one
library.
corner, yeah.
Yeah, in the
Because
corner
when they-
there, I think it might be
when they
buried.
got
It may be, but right now, we didn't have that
I think
information.
you get
so-
plowed down a few times, it may be back
That's what I'm thinking.
back way, so it's a matter of resetting that or we
Yeah.
defining where it was.
But again, if we had the survey information on the library property, the adjacent property, the tax deeded piece,
Correct.
and then, of course, inherently, you then have the boundaries for the other adjacent piece, you then are able to make some, I think, reasonable decisions on how this might work.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is, it seemed to me, and Sloan can, tell you what his sense was, but I think the property owner was more than willing to work with everybody, and if in fact it was more advantageous for the town to acquire green space relative to, helping out with the loading of the site, because the library site is probably maxed out as far as its actual loading of the site. Because, your septic's out front, by the looks of things.
That's right too.
And everything there. So if in fact, I know an issue for the library has been, they're kind of looking at, we might need a little extra storage space off the back.
Right.
For an example, and if they need a little extra space, that has to be kind of looked into it as far as
Parking or something like that.
the
Yeah.
stormwater aspect.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it just, for the town, from my perspective, it just makes a lot of sense to try to work it if we can for future use, and you can name whatever possibility that could be, but at least it then becomes a much more flexible piece of opportunity, or much more flexible opportunity for the library and for town needs.
May I keep this?
I'll get the one I need.
Oh, I have it in my box now?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I put it in Saturday. I think you got it before.
I did.
All right, so, good.
Wait for them.
So I'll go ahead and get some information if it gets up there where I need to bring it back to the board.
On that. Okay, how about the rest of this? Anything else?
The only other thing was, and Mr. Stetson did call in, and unfortunately wasn't able to come in. He was gonna come tonight and kind of give you a little bit of an overview relative to his visionary relative to the Copper Crown District redevelopment and preservation plan that he had kind of outlined and sent into the board relative to some of the visionary aspects that he saw relative to, combining lots and things of that nature. So he
That
said
shows
he'd
that
be
you
more
read
than
it. Is
willing
that the deal?
at a later date to come and
Give me a copy.
talk to you about it.
That's
What he
fine.
left for us to read, and I said, well, put it in our
So
packet.
you'll set up a
the
time
guy's
to
coming
come
in.
back?
Yeah, I think as we go through the process, right now, you don't have any of those lots, with the exception of, I think, one lot you identified on the schedule, if I remember right, was in the column.
Yeah, and then you also are gonna put in my mailbox the map, the tax map, and so forth.
Yeah, I'll copy these, or have
Okay.
a copy.
All right, fine.
I'll probably get that copy.
Well, That's,
Okay,
that's good work.
moving right along, are we? All right.
Okay.
Public participation vote.
Okay. So we've had everybody look at this. We've had, taken 4 or 5 different town public policy, participation, in this. We've had our older one. We had the New Hampshire Municipality Association. We had Primex, and we had, our attorney look at this. And so I took all of that, put it into this, drafted it into this. I do have 2 changes.
You?
Yeah. On 8, once public input is finished, there will be no further commentary to the, I put down their chair thinking they had made a mistake and the chair should go through it, but then as I looked at it, it should be what they had, and that's board. So crossed out chair and put board, which that's what they actually had. Yeah. And, any discussion on it to do is fine with me. And I actually added number 9, and that is the audience may not talk with one another during the Board of Selectmen meeting. I think that's important, because sometimes it's very hard to hear when we have people talking and so forth, and it's somewhat disruptive. So I put that in, and that's just straightforward. And then number 10, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences down. And again, it starts with then the chair, and I crossed out chair, and they actually had board also. But then I looked at that, and maybe we can discuss this. And that is, I'll read the sentence, starting with the sentence before it, or the line before it. If they do not leave, then the board will contact law enforcement and request that they be removed from the meeting room and or arrested for disorderly or other illegal conduct to accessible. I don't know if the board member actually would make that call or if we turn it over to the town administrator. So I wanted an input from the other selectmen, how they would like that to be handled.
Oh, yeah.
Do you
I
want to
see.
leave it?
Yeah.
Do you want to leave it the chair, and then the chair will,
Usually, the chair will ask someone else to make the call.
that's right. But they have the chair will contact law
Yeah.
enforcement. I don't think it should be the chair. I think the chair should turn to the town administrator and say, would you please make this call to the police department? I mean, is that something that's how we'd want that to be handled?
We'll have law enforcement contacted. Just stretch it out. We'll have, see what contact it is.
Well, what you do is then the chair would notify the town administrator or ask the town administrator then to contact the law enforcement.
Yeah, what you do is say, we'll have, put have there. cross that out, contact it, and contact it over here. We'll have law enforcement contact it. In other words, have somebody else do it. Or they can do it themselves, whichever.
Right.
Actually, anybody can do it,
Well, that's exactly right.
but generally that's the process that I'm familiar with.
Twins, do you have a problem with this?
I don't, I think the whole thing is not worth our while, to be honest with you, Greg. I hate to be as,
You think this past year and what happened tonight is acceptable?
I think it's a poorly run meeting, but it has nothing to do with this.
Well, other towns have gotten in the same situation, and they've done this.
Yeah, it cost Alton $40,000 to have something like this done. We have a policy.
It was
all we have to do is follow the 40.
And we've corrected that in
It's
this.
$43,000, but
Well, we've corrected that in
we
this.
already have a policy which I think covers it fine, but.
It doesn't,
I thought that was the issue.
yeah.
But it
If you think
does.
this year is acceptable, then you
Has
and I
nothing-
certainly disagree with
Has
that.
nothing to do with that.
He says the policy's fine, it's the chair that doesn't run it
Well,
properly,
it's how it's run.
Well, the chair.
which means how it's run,
No,
right?
it's the respect of the individuals in the audience.
And you have, tonight is a prime example.
Yeah, I agree with
It's
you.
respect from the Board of Selectmen is actually what it is. But
No.
if you ask for my input, that's my input.
Okay, well, here's my point. When I was sitting out there and I disagreed with you as chair, the minute you hit that gavel, I shut my mouth. I never uttered another word. I respected the chair and the selectmen.
I'm not
Now,
sure,
I
I'm not
might-
sure, to be fair, I'm not sure I ever did it to you, but that's okay. I may have once,
You
Yeah.
did. But I respected the office you
That was a
held.
compliment for you, by the way.
Well, thank you. The position that you held, and I respected that.
Right.
Even though I disagreed, I respected it. And the minute you gaveled, I didn't say another word during the whole meeting. We don't have that now.
But you have the policy there to do that, you're just not doing it.
Well, no, we don't have a policy to remove a person by law enforcement.
Anyway, you asked for my input, that's
Okay,
okay.
all right. I just think it's important to have these meetings handled properly, and there are some people that aren't acting in a proper manner. And, you know, I've learned a lot, but part of this is, I've learned that this meeting is for the Board of Selectmen and the town. And the public input is a privilege, not a requirement. But we want to have public input, but we want it to be done orderly. And once public input is over, we've got to do our business. We can't have people interrupting or catcalling or anything like that. It's just inappropriate. Now, if somebody disagrees with me or Dave or you, that's fine. They can do it during public input. Or after the meeting, they can call us. You know, they can contact us. But we have a certain responsibility for the town to get business done. And because of this past year, this is why we're implementing it. But it's not new. It's not like this is the only town that had to do this. Other towns go through this. This is why we were able to get other copies from other towns that have gone through this difficulty. So,
So anyway, I can see the need, I have. And I agree with your changes, and do you agree with the change that I made to what you pointed out in your number 10?
well, okay, so give it to me again. If they do not leave, then what do you have?
The chair
The
will
chair.
have law enforcement contacted.
Have law enforcement contacted
That's it, then it just goes on.
and request that they be removed?
Yep,
You think that'll cover it?
I think so.
Okay. Is that something that's, I mean, we got part of this from Malta, their policy. That's something that you could be comfortable with?
Yeah, I think that's quite appropriate as far as the course of having people do certain things. The other thing is, in your chairman, all the way through, just to go back we changed that previously, the chair, changed
Chair.
it into chair.
Right,
And some of
Oh,
some
let's
of the
see.
chairmans are
Thank
back
you.
in there.
thank you. So in 5, we move that to chair.
4 also.
Yeah, 4 has.
4 has itself. Well, we're gonna have to rewrite this. I just wanted to get input from everybody and try to get this to the final draft. Okay, so 4 and 5 will make it all chairs. 8, we change chair to board. And then 10, we'll change what? 8. Okay. So if you'll, okay, does anybody else have any changes or anything you want to
Oh,
include anything?
all right, very good.
Okay. Well, if you'll type that up for us, and then the next meeting we'll vote on
Thank you for initiating it, and
it. Well, I just think it's important.
I hope you'll pick up some more policies.
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, this is the 3rd one I've actually done.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, well, I'm glad you're keeping track.
yeah, but there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, so I guess we're good on that then, huh?
Right.
For edits. I'll make a note of that. Edits. Now that I get the right date here. And let's see, now we've got the other policy to consider. Citizens' complaints regarding the performance of a town employee. And you made the exception here, Scott. I believe it was you that added this, or?
Yes, yeah, I made a change to add in on 4, I added 4A relative to complaints regarding sexual assault, sexual harassment, and bullying will be handled in accordance with state law, and will be treated as a law enforcement investigation, and names withheld until such time as a release of such names are authorized by the investigating agency and/or by the provisions of RSA 91A. It also would support the redactment or removal of the grievance procedure that's already, as Swan's pointed out, is already located in the personnel manual and doesn't really pertain relative to this. This is, the grievance process really is for action of discipline against an employee, so it's kind of separate.
Scott, the only thing under 4A is that you need to add state and federal law.
Okay, yep.
I don't think either one needs to be capitalized, including law, but
Okay.
that's minor.
Okay, I've got some changes in 2 and 3, and 5 and 6.
Okay.
In 2, we were talking about this before, and you have the aggrieved individual shall return the complaint form to the New Durham Town Hall Administrative Office, comma, to the administrator or to a selectman currently seated on the Board of Selectmen. That's just too many people. First of all, I don't think they should go to the selectmen. And I'd like to have everything focused through the town administrator. And that way, one, it doesn't get lost for the person that's making the complaint. That's the person that's gonna follow this. And now I understand we talked about if the town administrator is on vacation or is out of the office. The town hall administrative office, now, that's not an individual, that's an office. So you should have an individual. It should be an individual. You don't hand a complaint to an office, you know.
Right.
So you want to put individuals there, be it the town administrator, or if that town administrator isn't there, I don't know if you want to do the town clerk or Jen Nader, who is she administrative assistant. Is that her official title?
Yeah, administrative assistant.
Yeah, and she's your administrative assistant. But there again, I think the complaint should, if it's not directed to you, it should then be put into an envelope so no one else can read it.
What about using language such as the aggrieved individual shall return the completed form to the New Durham town administrator or his designee? So in other words, if I went on vacation,
Okay,
people in the office would know where that was to be delivered to.
that's fine.
If it was an extended period of time, it is time sensitive, then it may have to.
Now, and like I say, I think it should be, if it's not given to you directly, it then should be put in a sealed envelope with your name on it.
We used to use the term office of the selectman.
Well, once again, that's an office. You really need to name an individual. It should be an individual. An office can't take a document. An individual can take a
Yeah, but
document.
if I was to send something to the Social Security office, they'd know where to send it once it gets to the office.
Well, you know, that's a wonderful example, but let's focus in on this. You know, we're a small town, we can handle it, you know.
Well, the only reason we did it that way in the past was because there can be times that you don't have a town administrator, but you still want somebody to be responsible there. So usually it's somebody in that office is taking responsibility.
That's
So
right.
by just saying, there may not be an office administrator there. At one time, we had Terry Jarvis do it for a little while.
Yeah,
And she would have been the person to take it.
right.
And over in Middleton, I know they either have a secretary that takes it or,
I mean, we had, in a sense, an acting town administrator.
yeah, in Terry.
Yeah, interim. So I think that would fall under the town administrator. I'm just,
That's why my impression is that office of the selectman is appropriate enough.
but,
Not a deal breaker with me though, so
okay.
don't worry about that.
But the other thing is, I think when somebody makes a complaint, I think privacy is a very important thing for them. And, you know, the town administrator is gonna see it and follow it through.
Then it becomes public.
Pardon me?
So then it becomes public. Doesn't it? Well, some
Uh,
don't according to this.
Yeah, some won't, because if it's an employee or a situation against an employee, you don't reveal that information.
Okay.
We've had this one recently. So, I don't know, I think we might have to work on that a little bit, and that's why I had a question mark on that. Then I had, the aggrieved individual received, return and receipt, the documents, the date, and the time that the New Durham Administrative Office, the town administrator or the selectman, well, once again, the 2 and 3, whatever you decide on the individual, and for sure it's the town administrator, number 1, whoever he decides on when he's not there would be the person that individual would give it to. But again, I would want it to be in an envelope, in a sealed envelope with the town administrator's name on it. So when he gets back, it's on his desk, or, you know, and he can open it up then.
Okay.
The least amount of eyes on a complaint, I think, is appropriate. And so forth. So, however, you know, Scott wants to, if he's not here, who he wants to designate, that then is the term we put there. That individual in position would be who we have, to be that person or you. So I think we need to work on that. Then I had down here 4, section 3 about noted to the selectmen's meeting minutes. See, I'm not sure about that. See, 4 goes into the timing frame that I'm somewhat uncomfortable with. You know, it has to be to the next regular scheduled meeting. Well, if we're not there, if you're not there yet, then you put yourself in a position that you don't want to be in. And then the next thing is, will be noted in the selectmen's meeting minutes. Now, how much of that complaint is gonna be in the meeting minutes? There's really, I would suspect that half the time there's a privacy issue with these. And we have to respect the privacy of not only the person that's making the complaint, but who is that person's making the complaint about. So I think that's something that we're gonna have to work on also. Then I have, if I get the on this would be number 5, board.
Well, going back to-
Investigation. I'm sorry, what?
I was gonna say, going back to 4 there, I would think the second sentence would be more appropriate up in the number 3. I think it was number 3, or it was number 2.
Well, see, there again, I'm somewhat uncomfortable, and I'll tell you why. When Scott receives this, or the TA receives this complaint, I imagine there's gonna be 10–20% of the time that it doesn't even get out of your office. You look at it, and you can solve it. You can find what the problem is, call the person and say, this is what I found, and we're gonna react to it, or this is the policy we have, and so forth. It doesn't even have to be kicked up to the board of selectmen necessarily, if it's a simple part of the complaint. So this idea that immediately goes to the board of selectmen, I'm not sure if you want that in there. I think you should determine how much involvement you need to do to get this thing done, and who you need to get involved with it. And then if it gets into a situation where you need to bring the selectmen in, the selectmen need to be involved, and if it's a major complaint, then bring the selectmen in, bring the attorneys in. That's something that, that's your job. I'm not sure if it's, the selectmen get the tail end of this, if it's a major one. And then you wouldn't, sometimes a non-public, just vote on it and go from there. But,
So you wanted to say something about 5, too?
yeah, 5, you say that the board of selectmen is responsible to conduct an investigation. Well, actually, it's the town administrator who's responsible to conduct the investigation. We give him the permission to do so, or the right to do so. But
Well, he's really known as a designee of the
that's right.
Board of Selectmen.
Yeah,
I think the reason why it references the board of selectmen all the way through is being the people to receive the complaint and so on, because somebody could be complaining about me.
Right.
And because I'm
Well-
an employee as well, and so.
well, then it goes directly to the board of selectmen.
But that's why the provisions are the way. Let me make a couple of comments here. I understand your point on 4, just quickly on 4, back up to that. And perhaps the only change that may be needed there is that shall a non-public receive it, which solves all the confidentiality issues. And those non-public minutes could be sealed, but they still may be in the minutes. But so if you put it as a non-public receipt, I think there has to be, the point here, which I think Scott has addressed in his policy here, is that there has to be a mechanism whereby, in our form of government, there has to be a mechanism whereby the Board of Selectmen is made aware of these kinds of complaints.
That's right.
And if you add under number 4, and maybe earlier too, I didn't read all of them to make sure it was all inclusive, but certainly under number 4, where it's talking about naming officially in the minutes, if you make that a non-public session, it solves all of that problem.
91A provision that protects that under the employee
That's right.
side of things.
That's right. And if you want to move this back to 2 or 3 about a person's bringing in a complaint, and if it is about you, then we should just spell it out. If the complaint is about the town administrator, then the complaint will go to one of the selectmen that are currently seated on the board of selectmen.
Well, if I had somebody that came in and said, listen, I want to file a complaint against you, I would have them write it out, and I would have them put it in a sealed envelope, and I would actually make sure that that was actually sealed up, and that somebody else was there, and, handle that situation, and then it was actually delivered directly to the board.
Fine.
In that situation there, because, that could happen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
could make an error
Yeah,
and
oh, yeah.
upset somebody, and
Yeah.
that can happen, so.
And it draws to our attention, and we can correct it, and you'll correct it. But that's right. I think the whole key here is, it kind of fell off the rails last year with a complaint. And the past town administrator didn't follow through with what we requested him to do. And that was to notify that individual. Now we've done it through you. And this is important to me. If the complainant, if it's important for a person to complain about something and they put it in writing, then, and I think you're addressing this, they then should get that it's been given to you, you put a date on it that I've received it. They get a copy of that, so they can also start the clock. And then in 2 months, or whatever it may be, if they haven't heard from anybody, they can call and say, look, what's going on? I mean, they can then get involved with it. But I think if you've expressed that to the board of selectmen, that, you know, you'll be notifying them as what's going on, as soon as you find out, when you get information, who you have to contact and so forth. And like I said, there might be some easy ones where you can get it done in a short period of time. There might be some difficult ones where we have to bring attorneys in, we have to bring in other investigations. You know, we're going back to the one that we had, and poor Carter had to go back and look at the minutes of the meetings, and it took him a month or so to investigate that. You know, because he physically had to go back to the videos and go back to the minutes and look to see if this is what was said and what wasn't said. I think we should make all complaints, we're sincere about getting them done for the individuals. So I think we need to work on this a little bit.
All right, you've offered a couple of suggestions up in number.
Yeah, 6, again, it's the time framing that we've got to be very careful, because once you set a time frame in and you don't achieve it, then you can look at it at somebody coming back with a lawsuit.
Okay,
So you don't put yourself in a box.
all right, so are you going to work with Scott on this a little more, or on the side, so we don't?
But whatever you want to do.
I enjoy hearing your proposals, of course.
Yeah,
I'm sure you do.
thank you.
I differ with you on several points, Greg, particularly on the timing thing. I think you need to define timing. If you ever managed it before on a business basis, you understand that process and it can be done pretty easily. I don't think there's any issues here. Already covered the non-public confidentiality issue. I think that's a fair approach to a change.
I can't hear you sometimes. You need
I
to
said-
project this way
Yeah.
for me.
I don't, where couldn't you hear? All of it?
Some of it,
Well, did you hear the first part?
He didn't know what he didn't hear.
yes.
Well, no, that's what I said. What did you hear?
Something like you disagree with me, which is.
All right, I differ with you on the timing issue. I think you have to define it. If you've ever managed a business in which there are a fair number of people and you have to manage it, you understand that there's a timing responsibility for those that manage that issue.
Well, I've written contracts with unions, and this is why I'm saying
Would
this.
you like me to finish?
No, I'm just saying, you know,
I didn't know if
Yeah,
you wanted me to finish or not.
yeah.
Go ahead.
But, so we differ on that. Writing a contract is different than managing it, by the way, so you need to understand how to manage it. The non-confidentiality issue, I think, can be addressed by just changing it to non-public, as I said before. So, you know, if you want to make your suggestions to Scott on your suggested changes, I think that's appropriate, but you've got to recognize that there may be differences of opinion to what your recommendations are, and Scott needs to make sure he understands and incorporates all those.
Well, sure. I'm just one select.
Okay?
Well, I do,
Yeah, I like the, just as a note, I like the timeline. I think it keeps things, it doesn't mean that whoever the investigating agency is, if in fact it's the town administrator that's investigating it, or an outside agency, it basically gives a deadline, or at least the ability to provide reports or updates. And if there needs to be a continuation that needs to be made relative to that, then at least there's a progress report that's given. So then the public understands that as well as the board. And that way it doesn't drag on. It goes twofold for the complainant and also for the employee, because at some point the employee needs to understand where they stand and what the resolution is or determination is.
Well, I'm assuming this is for all complaints.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
The other thing that I've said quite a few times, and that is, every complaint, not one complaint should ever be thrown out. We should have a file in the town administrator's office, that every complaint that comes in is put into that file, and it stays in that file. And when it's resolved, you put down how it was resolved and so forth, and the individual can either sign off on it, or they can send a letter saying, okay, or you send a letter to them saying, this is our, this is our determination on it. But it always stays there. I don't know if we have that now. I don't know if they're floating all the way around, if people just disregard them after a year. I think it's important to have a file that should be in the town administrator.
Well,
And,
oh, go ahead. Finish.
well, I was just gonna say, now if it had to do with an employee, and it's a founded complaint with the employee, then you're in another ball of wax, and it goes under public policy, employee policy. But in that case, then you have to, if you put something in a employee's jacket, you have to sit down with the employee, explain what it is, what you're putting in the jacket, and they need to sign off on it that it's going in the jacket. And if they want to make a remark one way or the other about it. But the original complaint still stays in that file that's in the town administrator's, and that should be under lock and key like the first.
My concern is number 6, because you were talking about information coming forward, progression. But this says complete. It says the individual group performing the investigation must provide a complete report of findings at the third subsequent regularly scheduled selectmen's meeting, and I'm not clear what regular schedule is anymore. Will we?
I kind of looked at it as that if you regularly meet on the first and third of each month, even though you may have other meetings that may happen in between, or other meetings that would not be a normal schedule, but it would be considered to be start the clock by counting that first and
Well,
third.
if
So
you-
it'd be the first of the next
Well, I'm
month.
thinking if you plagiarize this for some other place, it used to be, in the old days, it was once a month. So it would have been 3 months, but now it's like 3 weeks, or it might be whatever you want to designate as regularly scheduled.
Regularly scheduled, the calendar was put out last fall as first and third Mondays of each month.
Yeah.
But we sometimes.
There may be more,
change that.
but those are regularly scheduled. I don't think there's any
So
confusion on
is
that.
that going to be enough time? Like I say, if you plagiarize this, it may,
That's right.
use that term literally, of course.
Yeah.
It
I
may,
mean,
did they mean 3 months, or did they mean every other? And is
No,
that
I
the right
mean-
time? I guess that's, I know too, the time we had to get an investigator, it took a lot of time
Yeah.
to do it. Because the parties said, well, no, I don't want that one, yes, I do. It was a lot of back and forth.
Mhm.
So I did want to put my input in that, if you can find out if you get the right amount of time for yourself to get this done.
Well, yeah. it might
I
be-
like your idea, excuse me, the idea of the progressive report though.
Right,
So if, instead of complete.
okay.
Anything else, Swens, on that?
No, I've already given my points.
Hmm?
So far, I've given my points, yeah.
Okay. Well, set to move on then? And
Yeah, so all of us are gonna put our input into Scott.
Well, I think I put in mine.
Okay.
But if you want to work on some of your ideas with it, good.
I had something, I had 9,
You had more?
yeah. Well, I had,
You want to add
on
nine?
7, I had the word no, let me read that. Or something provided a written response to every complaint filed with investigation by them. Well, I'll leave that up to Scott on that. Sometimes, a phone call will do it, you can just write on the complaint, make a phone call, so if it's something minor. If you want to send them a letter, that's taking more time and so forth. I don't have a problem with that either. The several things I'm looking at is your time. Don't put the selectmen or this investigation in a box, or, never limit yourself. Put time frames that you cannot meet, because it's always gonna come back and bite you. And then, all complaints will be kept in, oh, and I mentioned that, 9 will be all complaints will be kept in a secure file with the TA. Well, I'll do my changes, everybody else can make their changes, and then we'll see what we're going with.
All right, good, then we'll move on then. To the community room facility use policy.
Yeah, okay, I do have a question on this one too. This isn't the final draft, is it? The top one?
That's what I said too when I looked at it.
This is,
Because that isn't what was agreed upon by several of the selectmen.
let's look, it's been a while.
This is the one that, this one, I was comfortable with, and I don't know what revision that one is. You know, and the very first thing is, I'm uncomfortable with calling it the New Durham Community Room, because that was not what was originally built for or done. And I agree
Oh,
with-
that's not correct, Greg.
Yeah.
I think you better check your history on that.
Wait a
Well,
minute,
I have,
let him,
thank you.
he started, let him finish.
The fire station.
So now you're respecting selectmen, I like that, thank you.
Oh, I thought you would like that. See,
I do like that, thank you.
You're welcome.
The fire station community room is what it's been understood and named. And the original reason for that, building that, was for the use of the firefighters and the police department for training. That was the original intent for that room. And then later on, they added, you know, when they weren't using it, then we can use it as a community room, which I think is an excellent idea. And that's basically where we are now. But the first intent, and that's the first reason for it, was training.
Well, let Swen's rebut that if he wishes.
No, I'm all done on that one.
Huh?
I'm all done on that one.
No, I agree with you. You're very accurate. Your explanation is very accurate.
Yeah, well.
In my opinion.
The other thing is, we've heard from the audience on several occasions about naming it after a particular fire chief and so forth. I'm somewhat uncomfortable with picking one over a large number of fire chiefs. But on the other hand, I think if you're going to have, you know, a community room or a fire station, I think it'd be nice to have one wall designated for the fire chiefs and have a picture of those fire chiefs with their name and the dates that they were,
Well, I think
chief.
You're going further than I want to go right now.
Yeah.
This is just a,
Okay. All right. Well, people brought it up, and I just
Oh.
wanted to give
Well,
my input on that.
another day.
Okay.
But I agree on the name. We've been calling it that for a long time. I think it's, I like the idea of calling it fire station, because, community room, because it's attached to that. If it was attached to the police department, I would have called it the police department community room. Gives it a location. New Durham community room gives it no location, no address, or anything like that. You know, it's the same address as the fire department. So anyway, I think with that exception, with this, I think there's a spelling error down in facility usage. So on A,
Connected.
yeah. Add a D there. See the connected, Scott?
Yep.
I don't remember having any other issues with it. Anybody else? Get any
Yeah,
comments?
well, first of all, I think it needs to be in the Durham Community Room, because that's what it is, it's in Durham Community Room. Secondly, our 45 chairs and 6 to 8 plastic folding tables, all that are located in there, Scott? That's all that's in there now.
Oh, I don't know if that's all that's in there now. No, I don't know that.
Okay, but that's all that would be permitted in there once this was done, because it's not town property then, and they'd have to be removed.
Yeah, I think
Town
that-
can't have liability for that.
Right. Yeah, any of the other, way I understand it is that the wishes of the board, based upon previous discussions, is that you don't want anything else in there other than what is town-owned.
Right.
So,
Then-
it's a
then-
donated article, donated tables, donated
Right.
exercise
To the
bikes,
town, yeah, I mean, then, need to take that
vending
out.
machines, any of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then that all needs to be removed.
But
The
you
town
do-
does, town doesn't need the liability on that, in my opinion.
You do have a vending machine in there, you do have some exercise equipment that was donated. And it's my understanding that not only the fighters can use the exercise equipment, but the police department can come over and use that equipment. And we talked about that, the liability on that and so forth. But on the other hand, it's a positive thing to have people exercising and be fit. So I think we're gonna have to look at that, you know.
I'd rather they did it at Planet Fitness or picking up bales of hay, but.
You have
But,
a farm, you have a mine, that you can hire these people out?
For exercise anyway, your chainsaw. But I never thought of the vending machine thing.
Well, somebody donated it and it's in there.
Oh, well, usually vending machines are somebody else owns them and they put them in, but you give them permission to put them in.
Right.
So how does that fit into this?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, if you start pulling this stuff out and it's a benefit for the people that are actually using it, I don't think we want to be doing that. I think we want to make it, and it's their room. It's their room to train in, it's their room to, I mean, even they had the training for the town employees over there for the CPR, which is exactly what that is for. But, you know, I think we should be careful here and not start pulling all this stuff out and not allowing the people that are using it some of the comforts that might go along with this room.
Well,
And that's why I said all along, that we should get the fire chief involved with this.
Oh, I thought he was.
Possibly the police, pardon?
I thought he was.
Well, I'm just bringing it out. I think the police chief should have an input because his officers go over there for training and so forth, that they need a large area. But those are the two people that use it right now for training. And I don't think we want to get away from that. Then third, it's the community room for the residents that come in, as long as it's under 49 people, I think it is.
Well,
We
maybe,
have 45
maybe it's a
chairs.
matter of keeping a record of, somebody's gonna bring something in, there, like a vending machine, whatever, there needs to be, somebody needs making a record of it, whether it be here at the office of the selectmen or whatever. I mean, if we're gonna, which is a reasonable thing to do, I guess. Would that be a way to work around that? So somebody knows, so you don't have this issue of, well, we thought we owned it, but no, somebody else actually does. That's what we need to get away from.
That's exactly right. And so we need to talk to the people that some of these items have been donated to
Well,
and say, will you allow that, that like the 45 chairs and the tables be turned over to the town property? Would you allow this to also be turned over?
yeah, that would
And
be
used?
good, I would think.
Yeah.
If it's in the room, it should be town property,
Yeah, in the end.
total.
I think that's what you're saying, aren't you?
Right, but I think you're going to have to talk with the people that have received this from donations and
You
so
don't have to
forth.
talk to them,
What-
other than saying that if it's in the room, it's town property, otherwise it's not allowed in the room.
Well, that goes back to the vending machine thing.
That's the way it goes. Now, that doesn't mean the town can't say that it can have a vending machine if it's town approved.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
but that's something that needs to go through a town approval process,
Right,
not just arbitrarily there.
right.
And
Then it becomes town property or town approved, well, in this case, the vending machine was given, so it's town property.
But I'm thinking of, in the case of where somebody else owns a vending machine and asked permission to put it in,
That's a different issue, but, yeah, that's not what we're dealing with here, as I understand it.
well, that's what came up.
Yeah. Well, I think those are issues that we might want to talk to them about.
Well, there's no doubt, anytime working with volunteer fire services and being a participant in one for many, many years, is that volunteer fire services generally take,
Well, first of all,
People don't-
it's not volunteer, it's on call, but,
that's a change in
Yeah.
what's happened as
Yeah.
far as an evolution. Because it went from a volunteer down to a call, paid type of call
Right.
application. And this has happened all over the country.
right.
And New Durham's no different than any other town. And, you know, now it's that issue where, you know, for an example, that you get the local guy that saw somebody and he said, hey, listen, you want an old vending machine? I got one in my basement, and you guys are more than willing to have it. And you can stock it, go to Sam's and put your stuff in it, and, you know, I'll give it to the fire department. And so the fire,
That was all that was done with that.
yeah, and the fire department, you know, says, hey, you know, we got this. And so there's a sense of, you know, territorial ownership type of thing. They take care of it, they maintain it, they do whatever. But those times have changed a little bit, because now when something breaks down with it, you know, there may be a tendency now to bring the bill across the street and say, hey, listen, fix our soda machine, or, you know, something like that. So there is starting to be that whole change over. So this is just a growing pain issue that needs to happen. For an example, today, I spent a little bit of time, I coordinated both the police and the fire department are both utilizing the fire station tonight. I mean, the fire department has training, and they were scheduled to use the room, because they pre-schedule it for every Monday. And the police department had use of force training going on for tonight as well. And just didn't hitch the horses of, the room's already booked. And they've had all of their staff coming in for that training, all the police staff. And so, you know, they had, you know, 7 or 8 people for the training. So they needed the space so I coordinated it. So the guys, fire guys are meeting in the apparatus bay, and the police folks are meeting in the community room area.
So they worked it out.
Yeah, we worked it out, yeah. No big deal, but they may, you know, whether or not they use all the 45 chairs or not, there's more than that in the room, that way. It's just that, you know, people have to understand that the old days are gone, and, you know, similar to the tables, when they get dirty and old and rickety, the expectation is gonna be that the town is gonna need to buy new ones, or, you know, it's gonna be a burden of an expense to the town versus, you know, somebody donating those. And that if they do donate them, they're donating them to the town, you're not donating to the fire company, to the fire department.
Right.
That's where that change is, it just happens to be a change.
I don't expect to get my sink back,
Yeah. No.
but I am pretty adamant about the name.
All right, you're out of order.
And the other thing that I have is that in the kitchen facilities, that should be equally available to all
What is that?
kitchen facilities.
Yeah, where are you looking?
Number 2C, I think. Roman number 2C.
2C. Well, you're gonna have to restrict the kitchen because of the situation. It just can't be open to anybody walking in and doing it. You know, you've got utensils and so forth that are part of the fire company.
I didn't say it shouldn't be managed, I just said it should be available to all.
Well, I mean, it should be
I think.
decided upon by.
I think this works though, the way it's
Yeah, the
written.
fire chief and the town administrator.
Usually shall be decided on a case-by-case basis.
Facilities are generally not available, that's not the message I want to send.
Well, we do want to set that.
You may, I don't.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Are you supposed
You
to?
don't have to clean up after.
I happen to be
people.
more for the people of New Durham
That's-
on this issue.
Yeah, okay. You know, there's a situation where you have to have, you know, people that are in there that are responsible, that'll clean up after themselves, that won't take utensils or pots or pans or whatever. And, you know, you have appliances in there that if not properly used can cause problems, break and so forth. So, you know, we're not gonna have just any willy-nilly person just go in there. You're gonna have somebody.
It's a gas unit, isn't it?
I think so.
And right now, it's not even available by anybody, is it, really? Because it's not fully hooked up, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. But the point is, there are restrictions that you put on town property and restrictions you put on certain areas. and you do it for the safety feature, you do it for the space itself. And I've seen this before. You start letting people come into a kitchen area and cook and make a mess and then leave. Who's responsible for cleaning up? Who's responsible for if things come up missing? Who's responsible if they leave the gas on and they start a fire? I mean, there's safety issues here as well. And for a selectman to say, well, everybody can use it,
That's not, Greg, don't put words that I didn't say. What I said specifically is that does not mean it should not be managed. It just should be available to all.
Well, how would you,
And
would you want to
manage-
just take that right out? See right out of here?
No, I want the first sentence changed, that's for sure.
Not
Should
available
be
to
available,
anyone
they should be
other than
available
safety
to, they
personnel.
should be available to those, and then they should have a process that they can get that use. It may require some payment, it may require some additional management supervision, but still it should be done. Should be available.
Well, you could, being this, that's just a bit of explanation, but you could just go to the second sentence. Use of the kitchen shall be decided on a case-by-case basis. Would that work? You take the first sentence out?
no,
It's better, I'd have to look at it in context, it's
you want to
better.
leave the first sentence in
You do.
because it isn't going to be available for everybody. There's going to be
Well,
a screening process, there's going to be maybe a deposit put down. They might have to have somebody from the fire company come in and help out because they know how this equipment works. I mean,
the second sentence offers a filtering process, as you're speaking of. Speaks of it says it's not on a case-by-case basis.
well,
So there's a decision process going on.
you're gonna have to be careful how you word this.
I think the second, if you satisfy, I think this, if you just start with the second sentence, you're fine. I don't think you've lost that much out of it. I can live with either one, but I'm looking for middle ground. Either way.
I mean, the first one says that kitchen facilities are generally not available to anyone other than the safety service personnel.
Yeah, you don't need to say that, though.
But you don't want a group of people in there that do not know how to work.
That's what case-by-case is.
That's right, but then you're going
Let's
to
say
have.
it's not managed, it's managed appropriately, but it's available to all. But they have to follow through the process, they have to follow
Well, then it's not
the rules of
available
it.
for all. If you're talking about it's case by case, you are going to restrict people.
Yeah, it's a vetting.
Yeah.
That's the
yeah.
idea.
So, you don't want to deceive anybody, do you, Swins?
Come on, Greg.
No, but if.
Let's
but
be
you're
reasonable
saying-
here.
No, but
Please.
I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying it to say that by you saying anybody can use it, that's not an accurate statement. And we shouldn't portray it as an accurate statement. Or in our policy, it is case by case. So there are going to be some groups that won't be able to use it, and there's some groups that will. But still, if somebody goes in there that is not familiar with that equipment and so forth, you're going to have somebody that's been in that kitchen, that's used that kitchen, to come aboard and to help them out. And there might be a fee for those people to come in.
I really think it's okay, case by case. Works. Now, I gotta know if, I know you're okay with the fire station, community room, but if Swenson's not, he's gonna vote against it for that, then I gotta find out where I'm gonna get I'm a swing vote here.
So you're this way,
So-
huh?
Yeah, because if Swenson go along with the fire station, I'm gonna go along with this just the case-by-case part. Get this thing moving.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, before we do anything, we're gonna have to send it back over there to the people that actually use it. And see how they wanna handle it and so forth. This idea of us deciding and then telling someone, you know, when in fact, we don't know.
I thought we did, Scott.
I thought they've already seen it, A, thought it was town property, B, so I don't understand where you're coming from on that one.
No, you're
But
already
we-
changing
Well,
C.
we gotta find out where our differences are.
Yeah.
Okay, so one is the title of the room. The second one is C.
We've already.
We've got some issue there. Are there any other issues? Well, let me put it this way. Swen's brought up that if we define the number of tables and chairs, then anything in excess can't be there unless it's owned by the department. I'm not sure if
No, it can't be there unless it's owned by the town. But I'm not sure why you'd want more than the capacity of the room in terms of number of chairs anyway.
Okay, that's a good question.
Well, you can't have over 49 people in that room without having, if it goes over 45 or 49, you have to have two.
So it's 45.
Well, that's because they said 45, but it really is 49. But let's call it 45 then. If you go over 45, you then have to have two firefighters present and pay for those firefighters if they come on duty.
Well, I think somebody wanted to be assured that there would be that many tiers there at least, enough to
Yeah,
cover the,
yeah. Well, they've,
what do they call it?
and they've turned those chairs
Capacity.
over, and they turned the tables over. So I'm not sure about 1B,
1B, 1B.
determining the content ownership of furniture and the maintenance of the space and furnishing. Who determines that?
Where are you? Is it 1B?
No, 1B. Roman numeral 1.
Determine the content ownership of furniture and the maintenance of the space and furnishings, yeah.
The purpose.
Purpose of the policy.
Yeah, but who determines that?
Oh, it's in here in the policy. The selectmen. The selectmen are the ones in charge of building and such. But let's see where we have our differences. We might be able to
I just don't
iron
think.
out. Do you see any other differences, Greg?
Yeah, well, I didn't think this was, I think this needs some work on it. And I think it needs to be taken next door and have them look at it and have their input on it.
Okay, now Swens, you brought up that you don't think there should be a limit on the number of chairs if whatever chair is there belongs to the town.
No. Whatever's in there, regardless of whether it's chairs or anything else, belongs to the town, A. B, it says the capacity is 45. Now, either that's right or it's wrong. If it's wrong, then it should be the number that's there. And then I don't know why you would require or want to have more than the capacity of the room with more chairs than that.
Storage, I guess. Only thing I can think of. Storage,
Why?
maybe somebody else needs them.
Why?
I just threw that out.
I mean, I know, I understand that, but
All
I
right,
mean,
that's a
they
good.
would also be the
All right,
property of the
so
town.
you want more-
I mean, I can understand that, but they would also be the property of the town if they're in there.
All right, those are good questions. So you're questioning,
Yeah, I think the whole chair situation was that the additional chairs that were donated, the only reason why they're out back is because that's where they store them. They could be stored in another place in the building probably. I'm guessing they used all those chairs the other day when they did their barbecue over there, 'cause I know that when I drove by, they had tables set up inside the bays and had all the chairs around them. So,
oh, that's right.
you know,
yeah.
I think there's a couple different, I think, there needs to be an educational process with the fire department, that it's not the old way, and it's now has to be understood that there's a transition, and that, once again, the fire department members also need to know that the Board of Selectmen is supportive of them and appreciate, that they have these things that were given, but we understand that those are given to the town, and they have to understand that they don't have direct ownership of those, the town has it. And, they get paid now versus volunteering their time. They're compensated now for their time when they come into the
but they're still volunteers. They don't have to show up if
They
they
volunteer.
don't want to. That's what a volunteer is. They get paid, so they're paid volunteers.
You need to check state statutes on that, Greg.
Yeah, well-
We've been through that before.
I know, and I'm just telling you how it is, you know.
You may differ with the state then. That's
Well-
okay.
All right, so Swan's your issue is the chairs.
No.
The way it's
That's not my
written.
Issues.
You don't, okay, you like the way it's written.
No, come on. I've already outlined what I think are the issues.
Well,
The
I'm
issues are, what's in there is the towns. Obviously, we already said, I believe the name should be New Durham Community Room. What's in there is the property of the town. There needs to be some reasonable explanation if there are more than the excess of the more than the number of chairs than the capacity of the room. There needs to be some explanation of why the town wants to own that property more than the capacity of the room, which I think we should have. I've already described the kitchen facilities. I think they need to be available. That's managed, as I've said, but they need to be available. And then there are a couple of other changes too, but they're not quite as generic. They're
Okay.
more detailed.
Go back. Then you have an issue with the 45 number in that line.
Well, I don't know, it's 45 and 49 now, but I'm assuming whatever they
Well,
put here was the capacity. Greg says
Yeah.
that's wrong, so
No,
this is wrong.
I like how you would like it written, because that's what Scott needs to know. How would you like to see it? Do you have an idea how you want it written?
Well, I don't have a problem with having the capacity defined and having the number of chairs defined of what can be in there and all of that, but everything else, as I said before, needs to then be removed because it's not town property. Anything that's in there needs to be town property.
But you do have some items that are used that aren't town property, like some projectors and some other things like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think that's, I still think it's town property. The fire department may manage it, but I think it's the town
No,
property.
actually, it's owned by Peter.
Well, then the town should take a look at that and see if they shouldn't, if they need it, the fire department may want to put that in their budget.
Okay. Well, have we gone far enough on this for now? We've got, anybody else got any more input? Hearing none? Yeah. Again, Scott, can you work with the fire chief and a little bit more and see if we can, I don't really think we're all that far off. It sounds like we have, but
No, if they signed off on some of these things, the one with the Roman numeral 2C, that's the one I'd be most concerned about. I think the rest of them, they've been very generous. They turn over the chairs, they're now town property. They turn over the tables, that's now town property. Then when you get into the exercise room with the vending machine, some of those items, you're just gonna have to talk to them and see where they're at on that. You know, I mean, they allow anybody to come in and buy a 50-cent soda out of the vending machine, so it's not, you know, exclusively just the police or the fire department trainees.
I know after building a $2.7 million public safety building that everything comes with it with a price tag.
with a what?
Everything comes with it with a price tag. So what ended up happening when we transitioned and made a public safety building is, and everything became the ownership of the town at that point. That's how that was put together. And so when it came time to purchase things, then it was purchased. It was not,
Right.
it was not donated. If something was donated, it was clearly recognized, like the $5,000+ gas range that was put into the kitchen, which was donated by a member of the fire auxiliary. It was made known that she was donating that to the town, and it was gonna be installed in that kitchen for the purpose of being used in that kitchen. Now, there's some other common courtesies that people have chosen to take, and I think I've described some of those, how I ask permission to, every time I used it, I call this lady up. She's very nice, been very generous to the town, given town of Marlborough acres of land and probably millions of dollars over the course of time. But, so you do a little extra, you know, being nice,
Right,
you know?
right. Oh, yeah.
You say, you know, I understand that the range is there and that you donated it, and I all means, I'll make sure it's clean and everything, but is it okay if the public works or the police department utilize the range for this purpose?
Right.
Not that we had to give that permission, or had to ask that
It's
permission.
courtesy.
It just ended up being a courtesy thing,
Sure.
just try to keep peace in the neighborhood. But clearly, it's owned by the town. And I would expect that, other upgrades that may need to be made in order to make the kitchen area usable by all persons that may want to use that, whether it be the town employees want to go over and have their holiday luncheon over there or something else,
Right.
that it's going to have to be understood that some of that may come along with it with a cost.
Right.
And I say a cost in that, Peter, as you mentioned, may have given his donated a projector or a television set or whatever. It's his own personal thing. He brought it from home. We've all brought things into work from home. But if he doesn't want others to use it and doesn't want to share, then he needs to take that home.
When he's done with it.
And that when we need to then buy one.
You mean at the end of the
If
day?
we want it to be used by all.
You mean at the end, take it home at the end of the day?
Yeah, or, if he brought it in because he's doing a training thing and he has his own PowerPoint projector and he wants to loan it for that purpose, he brings it in and allows it to be used, he needs to take it home afterwards so that it's not understood that it's town property and that it's gonna be used by others. If he wants to donate the TV and say it can be used by others, it generally starts to change when in the budget item, fire department puts in that they wanna buy a television with a DVD player for doing their training purposes, and it's gonna be placed inside that room, that it's understood that that's where it would be, and it'll be used by all, even though it may come under the fire department's budget.
Right.
It's still been purchased by the taxpayers, so it's clearly that it's ownership.
Right.
What becomes muddy in waters is when other people purchase things, lug them in, bring in the KitchenAid mixer that they don't use anymore, or the blender, and say, I'm gonna leave it down the fire station, and, we can use it.
Nobody can use it,
Huh?
but nobody can
But
use
nobody
it.
can use it.
Yeah.
That's where it gets that territorial thing. So that's where you say, if you got something here and you own it, and you don't want everybody to use it, take it home. And,
Well, I
have
think,
to outfit it.
I think you said it best. Times are changing, and there is something that, they might have to recognize that some of this now has to be turned over to the town. And it's just the way to handle it is, I think, would be very important. Because, these firefighters, have been around, this is their understanding. They went out and these items were donated directly to them, not to the town. And now, they have to realize that there might be some changes there. But I think you're the person that you can talk with and do that. And so, I think that there might be a time.
All right, so time to move on to the minutes, isn't it?
I don't think we can do any of the minutes,
Oh, was that right?
yeah.
Yeah. we're
I
gonna
never
do-
had, in my packet, I didn't have a complete set of minutes. I did see Scott was able to send them out electronically, but it was like 5:30 or something like that, so I certainly didn't have time to review them. So I don't think we can review any of the minutes.
Geez,
Yeah,
I think I had the 18th, though.
April 18th, we
I
can't do.
never got a complete
July
18.
18th?
Though, there was only 2 paragraphs that were changed, and it was discussed in length the last time we met. He put it in the form so you could read it, and we're gonna vote on it.
I don't have any minutes that I can vote on.
Well,
So-
then you're not gonna vote on it, but I'm gonna vote on it.
Maybe the only one.
I'm not keeping up here with. So Scott, what do you got there in your hand?
I just want to give you the hard copies because I just finished those this afternoon late.
So this is July.
That's July 18th. I just got those from Jen Real. And then the second set coming around is because I learned that apparently the hard copy for the April 18th was not in your packets.
Right.
But it was
It was
online.
in my folder, so I assumed that Jen made you another copy of it.
It was online, so you could look at it, and the only changes were on page 5. And they were made exactly what we talked about the last 2 meetings.
Oh, okay.
Page 5 at the top. Swins asked for it to be put in writing, and so we have it in writing.
And still is not correct.
What about all those question marks?
What's that?
What about those question marks? Those should come out, right?
Where are you talking about that?
Page 5? Oh, am I on the wrong ones?
Yeah,
I'm on the wrong 5.
we're on April 18th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And it still is not correct.
Oh, still isn't?
No, it is correct. What's not correct?
Greg, you have an opinion that's correct. In my opinion, it's not correct.
Pardon me?
You have an opinion that's correct. In my opinion, it's not correct.
What is not correct?
Well, can you share with us what is?
Yeah, it's not. First of all, the names were never mentioned as part of the motion.
Well, it's in parentheses, so there's no confusion.
The names were never mentioned as part of the motion.
And it's in parentheses, so it's not confused. And we've done that before.
Oh, you guys are ahead of me.
It's
Change this motion to include the other two.
It's basically,
In a
I'll
way,
read
yeah.
it.
Yeah, okay.
Let me read it. Selectman Antes made a motion to waive the appointment policies required of attendance at a prior meeting for all 3 Meeting House Committee appointees. There was a discussion that George Gill had attended the committee meetings in the past. Selectman Antes changed his motion to include the other 2, and in those parentheses, so there's no confusion, Clayton Randall and Janice Antes, in the waiver of the prior attendance at a committee meeting. Selectman Swenson seconded the motion. Motion passed 3-0.
All right, I don't see why that won't work. It's just an identifier.
That's not the motion I seconded.
What did you say?
There was no names in the motion.
All right, so if the names come out, we're all set?
That would be more accurate of what happened.
Well, that's,
Now, wait a minute, though. So you're saying you've never put in the parentheses names or any others to identify in a motion or other statements? Are you saying that?
Greg, I'm just telling you what happened here. You can put in whatever you think you want to put in for your words. I'm telling you what happened here.
Well, I understand what happened there. And I said, I put that in parentheses, or asked Scott to put that in parentheses, so there's no confusion on it. I mean, you're not gonna vote for it anyway. You're gonna delay it as long as you can.
He might fool you.
No, he ain't gonna vote for it.
I can go either way, whether it's in parentheses or
Well,
otherwise.
I went back, and we have done that before, when there was, and Swins actually has done it before, where there was not clear what we were talking about, he then put things in parentheses, or we put it in parentheses. That's why I put it in parentheses. It clarifies who the other 2 are. You don't have to guess.
The other thing I say, it should be in, you lose your bold then. You lose the bold, because it's not really the motion, as he points out. So instead of making it bold, you just make it small. Your regular print.
Okay. I'm just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, I understand.
So Clayton Randall and Janice Anthony's, that's in parentheses, will go into a smaller print.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'd be preferable to, I think.
Okay?
Whatever you guys vote on, I'll put in.
All right, anything else in there that needs to be, there isn't, is there?
No, everything else was approved and accepted.
All right. Then, given that, I'll try this. Make a motion.
Wait a minute now. I want to understand what it will say here. What it will say? What will it say? What's the motion?
Do you want me to read it?
What's the change?
Okay, you want me to make the motion?
As long as the 2 names are there, bolded or unbolded, that's not the motion.
Would you be able to vote for it if the names were not there?
Yes.
All right, then I can
And in
go,
fact, I will offer a compromise position which will solve your problem.
all right, let's hear
If
it.
you put in, and I agree with you, unbolded after all that action, and saying that, actually, you don't even need it, never mind. You don't even need it, because you already know what it is. So, yes, to answer your question, yes, I would. If they weren't there, if the names weren't there, I would vote for them, for the minutes.
All right. Well, I wouldn't mind doing that.
I don't have a problem with it. I put it in parentheses only to make it clear.
Oh, no, he says
just
he'd like
cross
to
it
have
out.
it, he says he'd like to have it out, not have the
Wasn't part of the
names.
motion, wasn't part of the discussion.
Because it does reflect back to the others. I don't mind having it there, but for the sake of peace, I would go along with taking them out. So I'm going to make a motion to,
Again, I will offer a compromise. If you want to put in non-bolded after that statement, a note that says the two individuals waived were Clayton Randall and Jan Anthes, I might go for that, even though it's just a clarification note. It's already plain there. You don't really need it. It's already there.
And where would you put that after past 3-1,
Yeah.
3-0?
Yeah.
yeah,
And just put a notation?
yeah.
That'll
be-
that'll
If
Actually,
solve-
Greg, if
that would
Greg
be-
feels so strongly that it needs to have some clarification there, it was clear during the meeting that was the inference. So if you want to put a note, the waiver applies to Jan Anthes and Clayton Randall, that was fairly clear. But it's implied by the paragraph. I don't think you need it.
I don't either, but I think that would be the
But
best,
I will,
the best
I
of
will,
all.
I will
the best of-
compromise with that opportunity.
You got that, Scott?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're gonna put note, the two others refer to, Clayton Randall and Jan Anthes. Okay?
Note the waiver of the two people apply to, and blah, 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 blah.
I'll make a motion to approve the New Durham, Board of Selectmen meeting minutes of April 18th, 2016, as amended. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that,
All right.
unless Swins would like to second it.
Oh, you already seconded it.
All right,
Just,
Greg
just
seconded
quick,
it.
yeah, just a quick clarification. These have been amended probably at least 4 times. I don't know the exact number,
Yeah.
but probably at least 4 times. You might want to say as amended,
On this day.
as of August 1st or something, you know.
Yep.
The action is August 1st, so it's sort of implied, so I'm not
But-
sure you need it. I'm just
You don't-
offering a clarification here.
It's in the minutes, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know that you need clarification, I'm just offering. Maybe in the discussion afterward, you just want to say, this was after all amendments effective August 1st. Put that as part of the discussion before the minute taker, so.
Yep.
Okay?
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, the 18th of July is, I don't have any complete records at all on that.
Oh, you haven't seen it at all?
I haven't seen it at all. Here's what I got. In my packet, I had the first, these are non-public, sorry, never mind. The public we never did get until just now. The non-publics, quite frankly, I'm not gonna be able to do anything with any because I don't have complete non-publics.
All right.
Yeah, I think in your packet, didn't you get 2 non-publics, one that was
Yes.
sealed and one that was unsealed?
Right.
So the
And one of them was duplicated.
Well, I got 3 copies of unsealed. Well, it doesn't say they're unsealed. It just says non-public minutes.
Non-public minutes, these minutes are releasable under RSA 91A. On the heading.
Should we wait till you get none?
I haven't, you know, these should be non-public, but,
Yeah.
you know, my point here is that I don't have any, I don't have any good minutes on any of them.
But, hold on, you're missing the point. We have a set of non-public minutes that you did not seal.
Right, so they're
They were
public.
put out in the public.
Yes, yes.
I understand, but I have
And so there's 2
I
sets
have
of
one
minutes.
page which doesn't have a second page. I have one page which I think has a second page.
Releasable.
Then I have a July 20th one, but
So this is truly not public.
then I have a June 20th one, which is not right because that's not what happened on June 20th.
Well, it's duplicated and it's
Well,
wrong on
that's
the
what I'm
second
saying, I
part.
don't have a, you know, I have no idea what any of these, well, I do have an
Well,
idea.
the first one is correct. The second part of it is the same thing, but with a different date on it.
Well,
Well, repeats.
well, no, my first part is incomplete, it's just a page, first page.
And
Second page is the same as the first page with a second page, which I think is
Yeah.
continuation, but
It's a pickup from that.
I think so.
That's
And then
right.
the other one is a June 20th, which has no, which is the same thing, but wrong
It's
date.
the date's wrong.
And then the third, fourth, 1, 2, 3, fourth one is the same June 20th.
That's
So, I
right.
mean,
It's
quite
really.
frankly, made no sense.
Okay.
So we can,
You want to hold off
But
on that?
those are unsealed, non-public, so.
we'll set these aside, I guess. It sounds like that's what we want to do, right?
Wait a minute, the one he's talking about, and I agree with you, these minutes are releasable under RSA 91A.
Yeah, they're not
which would be
sealed.
public.
They're not
But-
sealed.
They're not sealed. But if you need more time to look at those,
Well, I'd like to know that, have some sort of assurance that the 2 pages that I think are the 2 complete pages are the 2 complete pages.
okay,
It says June 20th on it, put it right in the shredder.
yeah. And they copy the first page and the second page is identical.
I have all the copies right here. and
The
unfortunately,
third page,
Can't copy them all.
Did you see, yeah, did you see what we got? Have you looked at?
we talking to Scott?
Yeah, hand that to Scott.
Yeah, he's seen it. You see what he's saying? Yeah.
Yeah, she copied everything that was in this. I don't throw anything away.
Okay.
Kinda
But-
like you.
But the problem is,
I
well,
try, but you do better know.
I throw things away if I'm sure that then you have an update, but the problem is, unless I need to track it, but the problem is that you have a July 18th, I think you have a July 20th, and then you have some June 20th, and I think they're all the same, except they're
They
not,
are all
except
the
they're all, yeah, but except they're not all
dates.
complete,
That's right.
so,
So I think what he's asking is just clean this up, do this page 1, and then have this as page 2. This is the same as page 1.
Exactly,
And then the rest of this has the wrong dates on it.
right.
And he's right about that.
now the sealed portion, which we'll need to do in non-public, I did do some
So maybe
handwritten
she can just
corrections,
clean
but
that up. Okay, this comes back.
I'm just throwing that away.
Good. All right. All right, so that's all we have to do in
The
public.
electronic versions that everybody got today are all the correct ones.
But-
I sent out electronic ones this afternoon
Okay.
Oh, and I couldn't copy,
on both non,
and you have the copies up on
non-public,
the,
releasable, non-public, non-releasable,
okay.
and then the new July 18th.
Okay?
Yep.
So,
So now we're not,
We
we're
should-
going to non-public.
I would expect so, unless Scott's got something.
I got plenty for you in non-public.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right. I'll make a motion to enter into non-public under 91A3, Roman 2, A, B, and C.
You know, I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion? I think we get an
What
explanation.
what are the
for why.
issues, Scott, just quickly?
One is on compensation.
Yeah.
Second one is on hiring. And the third one is also reputation, and you should add E on there for litigation.
Oh,
Oh, that's why I asked.
Sorry.
Because I didn't know it, but I'll make sure that's complete.
all
So you
right.
want to rescind seconds and motions?
Yeah, I'll make a new motion, rescind the old, under 91A:3, Roman 2, A, B, C, and E.
I'll second that.
All right? All those in favor, please say by your name and
A, C, and E, you said, right?
A, B, C, and E.
C and E.
A, B, and E.
C and E.
All, except
A,
D.
B, C.
Except D, okay.
What is D?
Oh,
It's usually real estate, I think.
Acquisition, sale of real
Yeah.
estate or personal
Yeah.
property.
Swenson,
Aye.
Beckford, aye.
Anthony's aye.
Okay. We're now in non-public, yeah,
I don't know.
10:09.